What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is a story where Issei was broken and joined the SCP Foundation. After being berated and broken by the orc, Issei Haidu leaves the club room filled with unhinged emotions. Upon stepping through an unknown portal, he finds out that there is a secret organization that dedicates itself to keeping humanity safe while operating in the shadows. Some time after, Issei returns, but not as the same fun-loving pervert everyone makes him to be. How will this change affect everyone? And how will Issei keep his new home safe from everyone, despite them knowing all about the world of the supernatural? Only one thing is certain for everyone. Secure. Contain. Protect. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into the story. Chapter 1 Heartbreak. At Kuo Academy, inside of the old school building, lies the group known as the Occult Research Club, or ORC. It's mainly used as a secret for a certain group. Its leader is a young red-eyed woman with baby blue eyes, a buxom figure, and looks that anyone would kill for. This girl is Ria's Gremory, the leader of the orc and king of her peerage. With her are multiple different people. A young woman, also with a buxom figure, but with dark violet hair and amethyst eyes. Her hair is tied into a long ponytail that is held by an orange ribbon. She is Akeno Himejima, daughter of the fallen angel Barkwheel and queen to Ria's peerage. The young girl that looked no older than 15, with short white hair, hazel eyes, appeared to be less than 5 feet, had cat hair clips, and was eating sweets on a couch. Her name is Kaneko Taoju, rook of Ria's Gremory, and younger sister to the supposed SS class stray devil, Kuroka Taoju. Another young girl, with long blonde hair, emerald green eyes, with a slightly curvy figure, and an aura that soothed anyone in the room. The name of this girl is Asia Argento, Ria's bishop and a former nun from Italy. The young man, with light blonde hair, grey eyes, a mole under his left eye, carried a regal aura with him wherever he went and had a sword at his hip. His name is Kibayudo, Ria's first knight and sole survivor of the Holy Sword Project. The young girl with blonde hair that was dressed in twin drills, blue eyes, wore a pink dress and appeared to be a bit tense in the room. This young lady was Ravel Phoenix, youngest daughter of the Phoenix family in the underworld. Yet another young woman, with chestnut hair, amethyst eyes, had a slightly buxom figure, and radiated purity while wearing a cross around her neck. She's Irina Shidu, an angel under the leader of their race Michiel. The young boy, dressed as a girl, that had light blonde hair, pink eyes, pointed ears, and sat in a box close to the lone desk in the room. This is Gaspar Vladi, a damper that wields Forbidden Valor View and Ria's other bishop. Another young woman was in the room, with short blue hair with a lime green fringe, gold eyes, and a curvy figure, was cleaning her sword. This girl is Zenobia Quarta, a former exorcist turned devil and Ria's second knight. The final person in the room was a young man that had spiked brown hair, hazel eyes, wore a red shirt under his school uniform, and had a very concerned look on his face. This young man is Issei Haidu, an open pervert that is the current Red Dragon Emperor. All of these members had just got done with a call from Ravel's mother, Lady Phoenix, which she insisted that Issei takes care of her daughter. Once the call ended, the tension in the room was very palpable. It wasn't long until Riaz had spoken up. Riaz? Issei? Issei? Yes. Riaz? What am I to you? Issei? Well, you're the president and you're an ass. Riaz ran off through the doors, causing Issei to go wide-eyed. It didn't take long before Akeno voiced her displeasure. Akeno? That wasn't very sensitive of you, Issei. Issei looked to each member in the room as he hears all of them voice their disdain and disappointment to him. Tiba. You shouldn't have said that, Issei. Zenobia. I may be thick-headed, but even I know that was uncalled for. Asia. Issei, how could you? Issei wanted to speak up, but he couldn't find his voice. Inside his soul, a massive red dragon that is residing in him looked up and heard everyone speaking towards Issei negatively. This dragon is Dreg, the red dragon of domination residing in Issei's sacred gear, the boosted gear. Dreg. Oh no. This can't end well. As he thought that, Issei tried to go after Riaz, but was stopped by Akeno. Akeno. I wouldn't go after her. The current Issei doesn't understand. Irina decided to voice her disappointment as well. Irina. Moo. Issei, you are so mean. Why couldn't you see the pain from Riaz? Issei, in a hope that he isn't severely outnumbered, turned to Gaspar, who shyly made his voice known. Gaspar? I think Issei messed up. He's a bad guy. That hurt Issei internally, but his one hope came from Ravel, who stayed quiet most of the argument. Ravel? I feel like it's my fault all of this is happening. Akeno? It's not your fault, Ravel. It's Issei's for not understanding Riaz enough. Kaneko, who remained quiet, voiced her own thoughts. Kaneko? The pervert really is the worst. Issei, his heart not sure if it could take much more, couldn't utter a single word. The final nail in the coffin came from Riaz, who screamed loud enough for everyone to hear. Riaz. I regret reviving you. I should have left you dead and go with Riser. Everyone was slack-jawed at what Riaz had said, and in that final moment, Issei could not take it anymore and ran out of the building. His eyes closed tightly as tears threatened to fall. Issei ran as hard as he could, away from everyone, and not caring where he was going. Eventually, Issei had run out of breath and arrived at a cliff on the outskirts of Kuo. He went on his hands and knees, unable to hold his emotions anymore, and began to cry and scream, broken by all of the disdain the orc, save for Ravel, had given him. Drake, who had heard all of this, tried to speak up and hopefully calm Issei down. Drake. Partner. Issei. Sniffle. Drake. Drake. Yes, partner. I wish there was something I could do to console you. Issei. It's okay, Drake. Issei had suddenly began to vomit blood, causing the dragon inside of him to worry greatly. Drake. No. Why now? Issei. Weakly. Drake. Partner, lay against the tree on your left. Issei did so, albeit slowly, and puked out more blood, losing color in his skin as Drake looked on in sheer horror. Issei. Nervous. What is going on? Drake. Partner, I hate to say this, but you have the dragon's fall disease. Issei's eyes were filled with horror as Drake had told him of the rare disease. He was more scared on what was going to happen, and Issei began to feel much weaker as his body fell on the side. Drake. Partner. Issei. Stay strong. Issei. Weakly. Drake. I'm sorry. Crying as he speaks. Please. Contact Azazel. Drake agreed to that, but before he could, a portal had opened up and 3 individuals that were wearing grey suits, black vests, held rifles and wore face shields, looked down and saw Issei in horrendous condition. One of the soldiers kneeled down and checked on his vitals. Soldier 1. Sir. This boy is dying. We need to save him. One of the other soldiers, who appeared to be a leader, kneeled down and looked at Issei's eyes, then smiling to himself as he spoke with not just authority, but left no room for questioning. Leader. Take him with us to the Foundation. I believe he will be an excellent asset to us. The soldiers nodded and carried Issei in their arms, being very delicate as to not hurt him any more than he already looks. Once everyone walked through the portal, it closed behind them as Issei was then placed inside of a tube, hooked up to different needles as he was out cold. Drake, witnessing the whole thing, saw the recognizable patch and paled very quickly. Drake. Oh shit. I think the SCP Foundation has found us. Chapter 2 Aftermath. In the orc club room. After Issei had run off, everyone was silent. Nobody knew what to say after Issei ran from everyone. All of them felt an instant tinge of regret, but none more so than Riaz. Not even a moment after Issei had gone through the portal at the cliffs, Riaz barged in with a panicked look on her face. Riaz. Panicked. He's gone. Bekeno. Worried. What do you mean he's gone? Tiba. Concerned. He left, but what do you mean by that? Riaz. Freaking out. I can't trace his pieces. Everyone had their eyes widen, as now they knew it was more serious. They needed to contact somebody, but unfortunately they were at a dead end on who to contact. In the student council room. Inside the academy, a group of students were working on their recent pacts. Their leader is a young girl with bob-cut black hair, violet eyes, and glasses. This young lady is Sona Citri, heiress of the Citri clan in the underworld. As she was looking over the packs from her group, a powerful voice made itself known. The voice came from a young man who had ash blonde hair, grey eyes, and had a black lizard-like gear on his hand. His name is Saji Genshiru, Sona's pawn and wielder of the prison dragon Vritra, who had spoken up in a bit of shock. Vritra. Impossible. I can't sense DDRAIG or his host. Everyone in the room jumped when they heard Vritra speak, but they were concerned on what he said. Sona. What do you mean, can't sense them? Vritra. Exactly as I say it, neither Drake or his host are here anymore. I can't sense their presence. Oh, shit. Saji. Eyes widen. Do you mean? Vritra. I hate to say it, but yes. Saji looked down, then punched a hole in the wall in a fit of anger. Saji. Damn it. Who did this to him? Sona. Saji. What is going on? Saji. Should I tell them Vritra? Vritra. They deserve to know. Tell them. Saji. Okay. Deep breath. Haidu was inflicted with a deadly disease known as Dragon's Fall. Another voice made themselves known, and it came from a girl with long black hair, heterochromatic eyes, wore glasses and had a curvy figure. This was Tsubaki Shinra, Sona's queen and council vice president. Tsubaki. Dragon's Fall. Saji. A fatal disease that kills dragons, no matter how strong they are. At that, everyone's eyes widened and a couple of them nearly shed tears. One of these girls had glacier white hair, turquoise eyes, and a slightly buxom figure. This young lady was Momo Hanakai, Sona's bishop, and one of the very few that had a secret crush on Issei. Momo? No. Where is he? Saji? I can't say. Because I don't know. Vritra? I hate to break this up, but I have a feeling I might know who could have taken him. But you are not going to like it. Everyone heard Vritra and they listened intently. Vritra? I don't know how they move around, but I am positive that Drake's host has been taken by the SCP Foundation. Everyone in the room became confused because they never knew about this. Sona. The SCP Foundation. Can't say I've heard of them. Tsubaki. It's a first for me, too. Vritra. That is because they work in the shadows, in secrecy. They deal with things basic science can't explain and anything that defies natural law. Saji. You think they have a role in why Issei is gone? Vritra. I know because I encountered them several years ago. They are a very powerful organization that doesn't play nice when push comes to shove. If you encounter them, do not get in their way. They also erase everyone's memory of them to keep the secrecy intact, much like we do with the supernatural. Everyone was shocked silent, not sure what to believe. However, Sona took a deep breath and realized that this was a critical matter. Sona. I don't want to do this. But I have to contact Serafal. All of the girls and Saji looked to Sona and knew this was no laughing matter. Sona then opened a holographic comms link and contacted Serafal. In the underworld. In the office of a manor, 4 individuals were ending a meeting. These 4 were the leaders of the underworld. Surzich's Lucifer, Ajuka Beelzebub, Serafal Leviathan and Falbium Asmodeus. As the 4 of them were about to leave, Serafal's clan symbol appeared in front of her and a hologram of Sona appeared. Serafal. So Tan. You finally called. Sona. Sis. I'm not calling casually. This is about the Red Dragon. Everyone heard this as Serafal's mood did a complete 180 as hey playfulness left immediately. Serafal. What's going on? Sona. The Red Dragon is not in this world anymore. I need more information on a certain group. Serafal. A group? Sona. More specifically. About the SCP Foundation. All of the leaders knew exactly what was going on and they feared the worst for Issei. Surzich's. Oh no. Ajuka. This can't be good. Falbium. I may not know him personally, but I wish him good luck on escaping them. Serafal. Where did you hear that from, Sona? Sona was stunned that Serafal called her by her name, but didn't show it. Sona. I heard it from Vritra. I'm wondering if you knew anything about them. Serafal. Whatever you do, Sona, do not engage them. Sona. Why is that? Serafal. They are the most dangerous group that is known to all of the supernatural and instills fear in everyone. They are sworn to secrecy, but they do it to keep humanity safe in the shadows. Surzich's. If Issei had been taken by them, then we must find him at once. Sona. That is not all. Serafal. What else should we know? Sona. He has suffered from Dragon's Fall. The leaders had their eyes widen as they knew exactly what that disease was. They paled and wanted to know what was going on. Serafal. Thanks for the update. Keep tabs on where he could possibly be. The hologram disappeared and everyone knew this was a more serious matter. Surzich's. We need to find him and bring him home. Ajuka. But we don't know where he went. I can't even track his pieces. Serafal. This is more serious than I thought. Stands up. Looks like we need to talk to his parents. Surzich's. Are you sure this is a good idea? Serafal. They need to know what is going on and where their son is at. Surzich's had a grim look on his face, but knew this was the best course of action to take. With that in mind, he opened a portal with him, Serafal, and his wife Grafia Lucifuge, who is a stunning woman with silver hair and eyes, wore a blue and white French-made outfit and bore a serious expression most of the time. After the portal opened, he and the 2 women disappeared to the YAHWEH residence to tell Issei's parents the truth. In the Grigori, a man was sitting at his desk doing research. This man had black hair with blonde bangs, wore a red half-open trench coat, and had a smirk that never really left his face. He is the leader of the Grigori, Azazel. As Azazel was engrossed in his research, his door slammed open by someone he knew all too well. The individual that came in was a young man with silver hair, blue eyes, wore a black leather jacket and exuded a powerful aura. This young man was Vali Lucifer, the current White Dragon Emperor and Azazel's adopted son. Vali. Where the hell is Haidu? Azazel. Panicked. What do you mean, Vali? Vali. Irritated. Haidu is gone. You know him. Where is he? Azazel. Albion. Care to explain? A pair of white and blue wings appeared on Vali's back and glowed slightly. This is the sacred gear known as Divine Dividing, which housed the souls of the White Dragon Albion. Albion? What he means is that I can't sense Drag or his host anywhere. It's like he vanished off the map. Azazel soon was shocked and scared shitless. Immediately he set all research aside and stood up, no longer smirking, but having a very serious look. Azazel? Where was he last sensed at? Bali opened a portal and he, alongside Azazel, walked through to the last known location of the Red Dragon Emperor. In the USA. At an airport in the United States, a woman with brown hair, hazel eyes, a curvy figure and a soft smile, was waiting to board her flight. She pulled out a picture of herself and 3 other people, which revealed her family to be the YAHWEHs. Her soft smile spread on her face as she whispered to herself. "Don't worry, big brother. I'm coming home." Unknown to her, her brother wouldn't be anywhere found until she realized it too late. Unknown location. In a manor somewhere unknown, there are 4 individuals that are sitting doing various things. 3 of them were women, while the last one was a man. The lone man had blonde hair, blue-green eyes, and wore something similar to a butler's suit while wearing glasses. All of the women had blonde hair in different styles, 2 with blue-green eyes, while the last one had deep blue ones. One of them wore a blue and white dress, another wore a white tank top with jean shorts and a red jacket, while the last girl wore a magician's outfit. These 4 were the Pendragon siblings, the male being Arthur, while the women were Artoria, Mordred, and LaFay Pendragon. All 4 siblings were just sitting on the couch doing their own things, with Arthur reading a book, LaFay playing with her magic, Mordred napping and Artoria cleaning her sword. Their silence was interrupted when a magic circle appeared on the floor between them. Out of it came a charming woman with black hair, hazel eyes that looked like a cat, black cat ears and twin tails, wore a black kimono with red accents and gold obi, and her figure was rather curvy. This was the supposed SS-class stray devil and Kaneko's older sister, Kuroka. Arthur noticed a look that Kuroka had been crying, which prompted him to ask. "Arthur? Kuroka, what's wrong?" Kuroka, between her silent sobs, spoke as much as she could. "Kuroka. She's gone." "Arthur? Gone? Who?" "Kuroka. Our Red Dragon." Those 2 words were enough for Arthur to understand what happened. He shook Mordred awake, which irritated her, but saw that Arthur was very serious, which is rare. LaFay looked like she wanted to cry as she saw Issei as a brother, just like Arthur. Artoria was nearing the verge of tears as Mordred looked down while her grip tightened. It was no secret to Arthur that both Artoria and Mordred had a crush on Issei, even though they didn't show it very much. Arthur then looked to Kuroka and had to ask a big question that everyone wanted to know. "Arthur? Who took the Red Dragon?" Kuroka couldn't speak, but she had a paper that had a symbol on it and she handed it to Arthur. As soon as he saw the symbol, his heart almost stopped as he knew exactly who it was that took Issei. "Arthur? No. This can't be. Why them?" Everyone looked to Arthur's reaction and they all knew it was more serious. "Arthur? They're real. The SCP Foundation took him." Everyone was quiet as both Artoria and Mordred bolted out the door, heading towards the cliff where Issei was last seen. The others followed them as both Artoria and Mordred thought of their crush and hoped he was okay. What they didn't know was that other girls who had a crush on Issei were already heading there as well, including a couple of goddesses, a worried Valkyrie, Heaven's purest angel, and others. Chapter 3 Awakening and Containment Breach. Scene change, redacted. In a random lab within a secret location, a test tube was in the room as multiple people in white coats were doing extensive research. Inside the tube lies a young man, wearing nothing but his drawers, hooked up to several wires, and was unconscious. This was none other than Issei Haidu, who was unconscious due to his illness. All of the doctors looked on and wondered what happened to him, all while trying to find a way to heal him. As Issei was unconscious, his mind was still active. "Issei. So I'm back here, huh? Is this another joke of yours, Rainer? Or am I really dead?" While Issei was thinking of the person that brought him pain, another one that had seemed to bring him comfort came up. "Issei. But why am I thinking of someone else? With navy blue hair. And incredible beauty. Why?" As Issei was in his thoughts, within him formed a woman that had very long navy blue hair, yellow eyes, had a buxom figure, and wore a maroon business skirt and coat that exposed a great chunk of her cleavage. Issei turned around and was shocked at who was standing before him, and was even more shocked at knowing who it was. "Issei. Kalwerner." The brunette, now known as Kalwerner, only giggled and approached Issei in a gentle manner. Once she was in front of him, Kalwerner placed a gentle hand on his cheek, looked into his eyes, and offered a sincere smile. "Kalwerner. It has been too long." Issei was blushing a bit heavily as Kalwerner was right in front of him and he was not that scared of her as he easily can take on her. Kalwerner saw this and reassured Issei. "Kalwerner. I'm sorry I had to fight against you. Truth is, when I saw you the first time, I felt like you were the one to always keep my heart. but I was forced to do so. Or I'd be killed. YAHWEH then turned around and moved her hair aside, revealing a faint mark on the back of her neck. Issei saw this and realized she was forced to do it, which caused the brunette boy to hug the fallen angel from behind. YAHWEH felt his hug and was shocked, and even more so once Issei started to speak. Issei. I guess. I forgive you. YAHWEH was shocked that Issei forgave her, and the emotional wall she had fully collapsed, causing the fallen angel to turn and hug Issei as tight as she could, crying her eyes out as the red dragon began to calm her down. After nearly 10 minutes, YAHWEH had calmed down but didn't release the hug from Issei yet. He then began to speak softly to not worry the brunette. Issei. Are you feeling better? YAHWEH only nodded as she looked Issei in the eyes and started to blush, as Issei also had the same hue. In that moment that felt time warp around them, Issei and YAHWEH brought their heads closer and sealed a kiss with each other. It was one that wasn't full of lust, driven by greed, or anything else that could influence them. Their kiss was one of pure love, and the happiness between them was clearly evident. After the pair separate, they looked into each other's eyes and smiled towards each other. Issei. That was. YAHWEH. Perfect. Unknown to either of them, inside the boosted gear, Drake noticed that the feather that Issei had kept from Rainer was fading, and it was being replaced by one from YAHWEH's wings. He smiled to himself and noticed that the dragon's fall illness was going away. Drake. Congratulations, partner. You beat the illness. I'm proud of you. Drake then decided to make himself known, which Issei only looked on as YAHWEH grew afraid and hid herself in his arms. Issei and Drake silently chuckled as the brunette gently brushed her hair with his hands, whispering that everything is okay. YAHWEH only nodded as Issei looked at Drake, wondering what he could want. Issei. What is it you need, Drake? Drake. I am going to say that it's nearly time to wake up, but I also see that the fallen angel wants to be in the real world with you. I'm not sure if there is a spell that can honestly bring her back, but that doesn't mean it's not out there. Issei nodded, then realized that Drake had something else to say. Drake. Also, I have a good idea of where you're currently at, and no, don't be a smartass and say your mind. You're inside of one of the SCP Foundation sites. Issei paled, realizing that now they are very much real, but Drake reassured him. Drake. Do not worry, they are not going to harm you. They are rather intrigued by you. Issei. Really? Why? Drake. That I don't know, but you are more than welcome to ask them if they can pull it off. YAHWEH was stunned that she could possibly be brought back to life, and smiled so purely that it melted Issei's heart as well as Drake's. Soon, Issei started to fade, but not before getting one more kiss from YAHWEH, before he faded from the mindscape, as YAHWEH and Drake watched on, hoping he could get the strength to pull through. Some time later. The people in white coats weren't paying attention to Issei until they heard him grunt through the tube. They quickly drained the liquid that suspended him, as Issei opened his eyes to look around, unable to move his head around. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't, and all he heard was a bunch of gibberish. Another voice made itself known, and it commanded authority as well as being clear for Issei. That is enough. Let the boy get his bearings. The voice made itself known as it was a male with jet black hair, appeared to be in his 30s, had a beard, and looked to be slightly tired. Unknown man. Hello, young man. I am aware that you have a lot of questions, and I will be happy to oblige and answer them for you. Issei tried to think for a moment before he spoke up a moment. Issei. Are you aware of the supernatural? The man laughed hard as he knew that Issei would ask that, but he recomposed himself before speaking. Unknown man. We have been very aware for many years, young one. It's not a surprise that you wield a sacred gear, either. And I know that it's listening to us. Drake then made himself known and spoke up. Drake. I am very impressed. And I should not be surprised that the SCP Foundation would be smart enough to know all about this. Colonel Mike. Ain't that true? Oh, where are my manners? Just call me Colonel Mike. It's a pleasure to meet you, Issei Haidu. Issei was about to ask how Colonel Mike knew his name until he looked at a screen and realized that. Issei. Likewise. But where exactly am I? Colonel Mike. I cannot answer that, as the SCP Foundation relies on secrecy. Issei nodded, understanding very well why that is. Another question popped up in Issei's head, and it was one that he hoped they would have. Issei. Is there any technology or anything like it that can revive the dead? Colonel Mike thought for a few moments, as he then realized as well. Colonel Mike. We do. As long as a suitable DNA sample is acquired, we should bring them back. Why do you ask? Issei then pulled out a black feather that made him comfortable, and it was one of YAHWEH's. Colonel Mike saw this and had to ask him. Colonel Mike. Are you wanting to bring someone back? Issei. Yes. They mean more than anything in the world, and I'd be devastated if I can't have them here with me. Colonel Mike saw the tears about to fall from Issei's face and knows what it's like. The colonel knows that Issei also has a family he has to get back to, much like himself. Colonel Mike smiled and spoke true to his heart. Colonel Mike. We can revive them for you. Let's get you straightened out and. Before anything else, a loud alarm was going off, making everyone go on high alert. One member of MTF had stopped and spoke to Colonel Mike. MTF soldier. Sir. There's been a containment breach. Colonel Mike. Fuck. Who is it? MTF soldier, I believe it is 049 sir. Colonel Mike. Damn it. Recontain that doctor by any means necessary. The MTF soldier acknowledged it and ran off as Issei was confused and wanted to see what was happening. Colonel Mike saw his curiosity and sighed, seeing how Issei should know what happens in a containment breach. Colonel Mike. Come on, you'll be shown what happens during a containment breach. Issei was shocked but grew determined and nodded as he and Colonel Mike ran off and met up with the MTF in charge. What the pair in the MTF saw was a male dressed in black robes, had his hood up, and wore a 13th century plague doctor's mask. Colonel Mike. Damn. It's the doctor. Issei. The doctor. Colonel Mike. The plague doctor, a dangerous human that kills with one touch. If he touches you, it's instant death and you'll become a zombie if he touches you again. Issei shuddered at that, but something inside of him just clicked and he equipped the boosted gear on both hands. Colonel Mike wanted to yell at him, but at the same time wondered what Issei was going to do. As Issei approached, the doctor noticed him and spoke in an eerie voice. SCP-049. Oh my, it's worse than I thought. Do not worry, child. I'm here to help. Issei then felt the doctor put his hand on the boosted gear, but nothing happened. The SCP members were shocked, the doctor was silent, and Issei realized that he couldn't be killed by the doctor. In a swift moment, Issei sped behind the doctor and chopped his neck, rendering him unconscious. The entire Foundation was shocked that a random teenage boy managed to take down one of the most deadly SCPs ever, and after being touched as it didn't do anything to the boy. As the MTF went to lock up the doctor, Issei looked at Colonel Mike and smirked towards him. Issei. When do we begin? Colonel Mike smirked and realized one thing that came to fruition. Issei Haidu is now a member of the SCP Foundation. Chapter 4 Training and Return. Time skip 6 years later. It had been a long 6 years for Issei, but eventually he mastered the ways of the SCP Foundation. Having been training in their methods, this also not only changed him physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. He no longer has any perverted tendencies and is much calmer and collected. Issei also cleaned himself up better and looks much more mature than before. Although his training was brutal, Issei knew that this was something he felt would be best. He's also very relieved that the pieces in his body were extracted painlessly and he's no longer a devil. However, his dragon side stayed, which made him a human-dragon hybrid. His struggles were an all-time high and there were a few SCPs that gave him some serious problems. Flashback, 4 years ago. In his second year of training, Issei was being taken to a containment cell that everyone felt was very fearful. Issei was confused why everyone was scared, but when he approached the door, it had the nameplate of one that sent chills down his spine. SCP-682. He knew exactly what it was, and the Foundation wanted to see how Issei would hold up against a hard-to-kill reptile. Once the door opened, the gas stopped and Issei stepped inside, facing one of the ugliest creatures he had ever seen. Issei. That is one ugly motherfucker. The reptile roared at Issei, and after it did, Issei only smirked, his dragon instincts kicking in to make the creature submit to him. Not even 30 seconds later, 682 started to attack Issei as he dodged each strike. Issei countered its attacks as he donned his balance breaker, sending blows back to the creature. 682 roared in pain a little, but Issei didn't let up as he continued to attack it more and more, causing serious injury to it. After fighting for 45 minutes, 682 was heavily injured, while Issei was not even breaking a sweat. He growled at the creature, which 682 finally submitted and fell defeated. Issei was the only one that had managed to not only severely injure 682, but make it bow in defeat. He walked out with a victorious smirk as Colonel Mike smiled, seeing the progress Issei made. Flashback end. Issei also knew that there was one that he didn't want to ever get out and did not want to see its face. Flashback, 3 years ago. A year after Issei made 682 submit, he was walking to another containment chamber, holding what appeared to be a sort of device. He wasn't sure what it was for, but they all warned him to wear it once he entered the room. Issei approached the door with the plate SCP-096 and knew this was something that made every member pale, even the more senior members were scared for Issei. Once he stepped inside, all Issei saw was a reinforced steel cube with almost no windows. After stepping in, he hears a voice over his earpiece. MTF soldier. Now that you are inside, place your device on and walk inside. That will prevent you from seeing the entity's face. Issei put it on and powered it up, which seemed to be functioning. Once he walked inside the cube, he hears incoherent sobbing and crying. Issei. What the fuck? Greg. Oh hell no. The entity in question stood up and turned around, seeing Issei's face. However, Issei couldn't see its face because of the device he was wearing. It was blurring and blocking the face of the entity, making it impossible for its face to be seen. The entity was a tall human-like figure, with extremely pale skin, elongated limbs, looks mildly malnourished, but does not seem bothered. MTF soldier. Looks like the device is working. Do not take it off and take a picture as it's looking at you. Once done, stuff it inside the manila envelope and seal it. Whatever you do, do not look at the photo for any reason. Issei obliged and took the picture with a camera, which printed the photo. After it was done, he immediately put the picture in the envelope and sealed it, making sure the entity was not disturbed. After that was done, he left the cube and took his device off, making sure that the entity didn't see his eyes. Once Issei was out, he handed the envelope to the MTF soldier and nodded. The soldier then explained what Issei saw. MTF soldier. What you saw was the entity known as SCP-096, or better known as the Shy Guy. It's very docile until someone sees its face. Once that happens, it will hunt down the individual that saw its face and kill them. Issei paled as he didn't know what would happen if he saw its face, but was glad he didn't. After that, he left to his quarters to turn in for that day. Flashback end. Issei. Geez, I am very glad that I didn't see that creature's face. Why the hell does it exist, anyways? Greg. I wish I could tell you, Issei. Issei sighed, but felt himself wrapped in the arms of his girlfriend, Kalwerner. Kalwerner. Darling, don't stress it too much. You're safe, and that's all that matters to me. Issei smiled and kissed her lips briefly, making Kalwerner blush a little bit. He's very happy that they managed to bring Kalwerner back to life, and there was another entity that actually made him more shocked than anything else. Flashback 5 years ago. Issei could be seen walking the hallways with Colonel Mike, keeping the feather of Kalwerner in the boosted gear. As they were walking, Issei saw a door that made him do a double take, making sure he wasn't seeing things. Colonel Mike saw this and wondered why. Colonel Mike. Is everything okay? Issei. Faintly. Is this real? Colonel Mike was confused, but the next words out of Issei's mouth made more sense. Issei. How? He was said to be dead. Colonel Mike let out a hearty chuckle and put an arm around Issei's shoulder. Colonel Mike. My boy, SCP-343, her god, isn't dead. He's always been here. Would you wish to meet him? Issei was shocked that he had the opportunity to meet God, YAHWEH, and faintly nodded, where Colonel Mike called the MTF team to its containment cell. The team arrives in a heartbeat, and Colonel Mike opens the door, walking in with Issei as the door is still open behind them. A figure soon emerged and wasn't too thrilled about being interrupted. He had long gray hair, same with his beard, pure white eyes, and an extremely powerful holy aura that would have killed Issei if he was still a devil. God. YAHWEH. Who dares to interrupt my tranquility? Issei looked on a bit meekly under God's intense stare, but soon his fury was instantly replaced by curiosity. YAHWEH. Boy. Tell me. Who gave you Ascalon? Issei tried his best to speak confidently and almost faltered under the scrutiny of the Holy One. Issei. I was given the sword by Michael. YAHWEH. Michael. Are my kids okay? Issei. They're okay. They're all powerful angels, and Michael is leading in your absence. YAHWEH looked on silently, then began to cry. He was crying because his children were not only doing well, but they're also in charge of heaven. YAHWEH. Boy. If there is any possible way. Please tell me how I can go to see my children. Issei was shocked that God was crying, but smiled as he wanted to be there for them now. He looked to Colonel Mike, who had thought hard, before looking to YAHWEH. Colonel Mike. If there is a way we can get you to see your kids, we will let you know immediately. YAHWEH smiled as he was happy he could see his kids again after so long. YAHWEH then looked at Issei and said something that made him even more embarrassed than anything else. YAHWEH. I can sense my daughter aura in you. I approve of you dating my daughter, boy. Tell me your name, young one. Issei blushed spontaneously, and his face was extremely red before stuttering out his name. Issei. Well. I'm Issei. Issei Haidu. YAHWEH laughed hard, but was happy regardless. YAHWEH. Issei Haidu, once you get back, please bring my children here and take care of my daughter. Issei was seriously red, and YAHWEH just smiled before he vanished, making Colonel Mike and him just leave without a word. In the boosted gear, the soul of Kalwerner was irritated, but she knew that others would come for Issei. She didn't care, but knew she'd be the first girl. Flashback end. Issei. I'm still surprised that God of the Bible is still alive. Kalwerner. No kidding. I'm shocked as well. A knock was heard on the door and it was opened to reveal Colonel Mike. He had a look on his face and said only 2 words. "Colonel Mike. It's time." Issei knew what that meant and it was time for him to head back home. He got up with Kalawiner and the two started to walk towards a gate which opened a portal. Issei looked at Colonel Mike, who had his arm up for a handshake. He smirked and took his arm before bringing the colonel into a hug, which shocked Colonel Mike. He just smiled and reciprocated the hug, albeit a little tearfully. The two separated and nodded. "Colonel Mike. I guess this is it." Issei. "Yeah. But that doesn't mean you can't come from time to time." Colonel Mike. "I'd greatly appreciate that, Issei." Issei smiled back and was handed a radio that stretched all over the entire universe. He also gave Mike a photo of himself and Kalawiner, which melted the colonel's heart. Mike looked at Issei and nodded, and he, alongside Kalawiner who was holding his hand, walked through the portal back to Kuo. Scene change, Kuo Cliffs. The portal opened up at the cliff side, and from it emerged Issei and Kalawiner. They looked around, saw that not too much time had passed, despite 6 years going on. Issei. "Huh. It feels like about a week has passed." Kalawiner. "Time dilation really is a useful thing." The couple then looked and saw a headstone, and Issei saw that it was his. He saw that there was a bunch of flowers near it, and it hurt him knowing that everyone thought he was dead. But Kalawiner looked at him and offered a soft smile, nodding as the two then went to Kuo, where Issei would make his return and surprise his family. Little does he know, one member would be more ecstatic to see him. Chapter 5 Tearful Reunion and Rage. After walking through town for a bit, Kalawiner and Issei were approaching the Haidu residence. While Issei was nervous to see his family again, Kalawiner was scared about meeting his parents. Issei gently squeezed Kalawiner's hand, smiling gently at her. "Issei. It will be okay. They will love you." Kalawiner only had a faint smile, but nodded as Issei then knocked on the door. Soon, the door opened to reveal a woman that appeared to be in her 40s, had dark brunette hair, and some wrinkles that had defined a bit of aging. This was Issei's mom, Miki Haidu. "Miki? Can I help you?" Issei only chuckled and spoke. Issei. "Wow. I'm gone a few days, and you don't recognize your own son." Miki widened her eyes as she spoke very faintly now. "Miki. Issei." Issei. Smiling. "I'm home, Mom." Miki couldn't hold it in and hugged her son extremely tightly, causing a couple of bones to crack in Issei. He couldn't blame his mom, since he disappeared and was assumed dead. Miki's cries were heard by 2 more people. A man who looked in his mid-40s, brunette hair, and looked more aged than Miki, and a young girl with brunette hair. Both of them saw Miki hugging a young man tightly, as they didn't know it was Issei at first. These 2 were Issei's father Goru and his little sister Angel. "Goru. Miki, who is this young man?" "Angel. And why are you holding him tightly?" Issei again chuckled and spoke, his voice instantly being recognized. "Issei. Geez, old man, not even a hello." Goru dropped his coffee mug as it shattered on the floor, not believing his eyes. Angel put both hands over her mouth, as she was shocked. Without any warning, both of them joined Miki and welcomed their son, brother back. Angel was the worst off as she was straight up bawling her eyes out. Miki and Goru back up a bit as Issei hugged his little sister tightly, letting her cry her heart out. After several minutes, Issei smiled at them and spoke. "Issei. I'm home, but I didn't come alone." All 3 other hiatuses were confused as Issei moved aside to show Kalawiner, who was very nervous as she looked at Issei's parents and little sister. They all eyed Kalawiner a little bit before smiling and bringing her into a hug. "Miki. Welcome to the family, dear." "Goru. From now on, you are a daughter to us. And please keep the idiot perv in line." Issei. "Oi. I've dropped that." Kalawiner only giggled and smiled brightly, realizing that she was now part of her beloved's family. She had a couple of tears, and Issei was smiling that Kalawiner was accepted by his parents and sister. He now knows it is time to tell them what happened and where he had been. "Issei. I need to tell you all something." "Miki. Issei, we know about the supernatural." "Goru. If it was about that, don't worry. Besides, it's more interesting than I thought it out to be. You really are a hero, big brother. And more importantly, you're my hero." Issei smiled, but that soon dropped real fast. "Issei. I appreciate you understanding that, but it's something far more serious." The family all looked a bit worried and sat down on one of the couches, with Issei and Kalawiner sitting across from them. Issei took a deep breath and began to explain what had happened in the 6 days he was gone, while also explaining that it was 6 years for him. He also explained about the SCP Foundation and what they're about. Issei only gave very minimal answers because the rest of the things that his family wants to know would be way too much and far too terrifying. Once Issei explained all he could, his mother stood up and hugged her son. "Miki. You don't know how proud I am of you, Issei." Issei was shocked that his family was very accepting of it, and his father chimed in. Boru, son. What you are doing is dangerous. But I can never be any prouder to be your father. Issei was getting choked up on his parents saying that, but the one he wanted to hear was from Angel, who just stood up and hugged her brother very tightly, which cracked a few bones in Issei's ribs. Angel. Issei. I don't want to leave you again. But please. Promise me you'll be okay. I don't want to lose my only brother. Issei hugged Angel and kissed her head gently, speaking through tears. Issei. I promise. I'll be careful. Sis. Angel only smiled and hugged Issei. Kalwerner looked on and smiled, although she was a little bit peeved that she couldn't be called Issei's little angel, but she didn't mind it so much. As the family was happy, the door opened up to reveal Riaz and the rest of the orc. Kalwerner looked at them with a rather hateful look, but Issei placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke with his eyes alone. Let him take care of it. Riaz, Akeno, Kaneko and Kiba saw this and got in a fighting stance, while Asia hid behind Zenobia. Riaz. You're supposed to be dead. Let's finish it, Fallen. Issei had enough and unleashed a devastating burst of aura, his eyes no longer harboring any love behind them. The only thing seen in his eyes was pure, unbridled, and unfiltered rage. Enough. Riaz. And who are you to tell me what to do? Shows boosted gear. Remember me now, Gremory. Everyone in the orc was shocked. Issei was alive, and he was very angry. Riaz. Ice. Do not call me that, you ungrateful bitch. Even though his parents will reprimand him for cursing, Issei didn't care as he was going to lay into everyone verbally. Akeno. Issei. Shut the fuck up. Everyone flinched at his tone as Issei continued. Issei. You think I give a damn about coming back to you? Bullshit. All of you, save for Rasuius, have played a part in nearly killing me. And for what reason? Because I couldn't confess like you wanted to. Fuck off. I'm not here to listen to you whine and bitch anymore. Also, don't come crawling back to me with some sorry ass excuse that my fiancé is supposed to be dead. Unlike her, she was honest with me. Seems like all of the shit we went through was for nothing. Tiba heard enough and charged at Kalwerner, only to be shot by Issei in the legs. Issei aimed his weapon at the orc, angered to the breaking point. Issei. I intentionally missed a fatal point. Aims at Kiba's head. My next shot won't miss. Rasuius, who saw everything, stepped forward and tried to speak to Issei and hoped he would listen a little. Rasuius. Issei. Issei looked at Rasuius with a cold look, but the Valkyrie stood her ground. Rasuius. Issei, please. Don't kill them. I know they were wrong. But please. She starts tearing up. This isn't you. Don't do it. Issei saw the pain in Rasuius's eyes and lowered his gun, looking back to Kalwerner who was next to his family. Kalwerner nodded as Issei lowered his gun and approached Rasuius. Rasuius prepared for the worst, but was shocked as Issei ruffled her hair with a soft smile on his face. He whispered into her ear quietly enough where the others won't hear. Issei. You're safe, Rose. They need to know that this is their loss. Thank you for not getting involved. Rasuius looked at Issei with a blush and turned away to hide it. Kalwerner shook her head, but had a small smile as Issei hardened his glare and spoke in a chilling voice. Issei. Everyone minus Rasuius and Ravel is to move out immediately. I will not repeat myself. Get your shit and leave right now. Riaz wanted to retort, but a figure behind them told them otherwise. It was Azazel. Azazel. He's right, you know. Get your stuff and leave. Grafia will arrive shortly to pick you up. Everyone then ran to their rooms as Issei and Azazel stared at each other. Azazel had a smile that was more genuine than anything else. He also saw his subordinate Kalwerner, who looked down ashamed of her past actions. Azazel speaks up in regards to that. Azazel. It looks like you learned your lesson. I'll forgive you on this, but don't disappoint me again. Kalwerner looked up shocked, mainly because Azazel was giving her a second chance. Issei hugged her from behind, where Kalwerner buried her head in the crook of his neck. Azazel saw this and smiled to himself, proud that Issei moved on from Raynor. Though it did bring up a question that he had to know. Azazel. Where have you been, brat? Issei just sighed and told everything he told his family, causing Azazel to lose all color real quick. Azazel. Oh boy. They really fucked up. Issei. Yeah. But it's too late for them now. They caused this, so they have to live with it. Azazel nodded, but something else was bugging him. Azazel. You do realize Vali is going to be pissed when he knows you're back, right? Issei. Yeah, but that's not what worries me. Azazel was about to ask, but realized that some of his team members, mainly two of the Pendragon siblings and Kuroka, will likely kill him for scaring them. He then looked at Issei and gave him some advice. Azazel. When that time comes, just tell them the truth. It'll be way easier than anything else. Issei nodded, then looked to Kalwerner who nodded. Issei. Then I'm going to make things right. Tell Volley to head to the Pendragon Manor, they'll be in for a massive shock. Azazel grinned and did just that as Issei opened a portal and walked in it, looking to Calwarner. Issei. Take some time and enjoy being with my family. They already love you. Calwarner giggled and smiled at Issei, just nodding and being dragged upstairs by Angel. Issei only shook his head with a grin before walking through the portal to the Pendragon Manor. Chapter 6 Healing Hearts. Scene change, Pendragon Manor. Inside the Pendragon Manor, Arthur is seen with his hands covering his face. He is extremely tired due to the amount of stress he's been put under, and his heart broke for his sisters Artoria and Mordred. Both of them were locked in their rooms, crying their eyes out and in a depressed state. Hearing that their crush, Issei YAHWEH, had passed away, both of them shut the world out of their hearts. The Fae is taking it somewhat okay, but it still hurt her. She is seen with Kuroka, who was saddened after learning the truth of what her sister Kaneko did to Issei. As the two of them talked a little bit, a butler came in the room. Butler? Miss LeFay, do you know where your brother is at? LeFay. In the dining room, sitting with his hands in his face. The butler nodded and went to Arthur. Butler? Young master, you have a visitor. Arthur? I'm not taking any visitors. Butler? Perhaps the name of YAHWEH would ring a bell. Arthur dropped his hands real fast and turned to his butler. Arthur? Say that again. Butler? Your visitor has the last name of YAHWEH. Arthur wasted no time and got up, looking a bit relieved as well as serious. Arthur? Let's go. The butler nodded and walked with Arthur to the front door, where the butler opened it. In front of Arthur was someone he did not expect. Issei YAHWEH, alive, well, and changed for the better. Arthur? Is that really you, YAHWEH? Issei only cracked a smile. Issei? Who else would I be? Arthur sighed heavily, feeling the weight being driven off of his shoulders as he finally sees the one that was assumed dead to be alive. He then punched Issei in the face hard, with tears staining his eyes. Issei. Ow. Can't say I didn't have that one coming. It was deserved. Arthur. You asshole. Do you realize how hurt my sisters have been? Your supposed death nearly broke them. Issei didn't say anything as he let Arthur vent. He knew that the Pendragon sisters would be very emotionally broken, as he was here to fix that and quickly. Issei. I understand. And that's why I'm here. To see them. Arthur huffed, but he then had a small smile on his face. Arthur. Thank you for doing this, Issei. However, I believe someone else would love to see you. Looks to the butler. Could you bring Kuroka and LeFay into the living room? Butler. Right away, young master. The butler leaves and goes to gather LeFay and Kuroka. Issei was shocked as he heard who was there. Issei. The kitty is here. Arthur. Yes. Please come in and follow me. Issei went inside as he followed Arthur through the Pendragon Manor. He looked around and was in awe at the sheer beauty and grace the manor held, which caused Arthur to turn his head and smile a little. Arthur. I see that you're impressed. I do appreciate it. He then yawned as Issei saw it and had to know. Issei. Are you okay? Arthur. I'm just tired. Haven't slept for a couple of days. Issei was immediately alerted because he may be in some trouble if his hunch was correct. For now, he'll have to wait and see, and he was smart bringing infrared goggles. Arthur. We've arrived. Issei and Arthur walked into the living room, where they both saw Kuroka and LeFay. Kuroka looked to Issei and stood up, slowly approaching him as tears were staining her eyes. Kuroka. Ice. Issei. Yo, Kuroka. I'm back. Kuroka couldn't hold herself back and flung her entire weight onto Issei, bawling her eyes out as she held onto him for dear life. Issei held Kuroka tightly, whispering gently into her ear and stroked her jet black hair delicately. Issei, sorry Kuroka. I really am. Kuroka didn't say anything and without warning, kissed Issei on the lips. She wasn't driven by lust or greed. She had fallen for Issei, and she fell hard. Once she breaks the kiss, Issei looked on in absolute shock, not expecting Kuroka to suddenly kiss him like that, until she spoke. Kuroka. Issei. Ever since you first disappeared, it hurt me more than you would ever know. And I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't then. Now. Issei was blushing, as Kuroka just confessed her love to him, making Issei smile and lift her head to meet his eyes gently. Issei. I'll be honest, I've had feelings for you as well. It took me some time to realize it, but now I figured them out. Although, you would have to share with others. My first girlfriend approved of you already, and no, it's not Ria's. Kuroka frowned at the mention of Ria's, but wondered who the first girlfriend is. Issei on the other hand, noticed how tired Kuroka was and felt like a pattern was going to develop. Issei. Kuroka, how long has it been since you last slept? Kuroka. 3 days. Issei. Fuck. I hope to God it's not what I think it is. Issei looked at Kuroka and Arthur, seeing how they were tired and for whatever reason couldn't fall asleep. He looked to Arthur and spoke. Issei. What about your sisters? Are they okay? Arthur. They haven't slept hardly at all after your disappearance, death. Issei. Wait. What? Everyone in the living room flinched at Issei suddenly yelling. Arthur. What was that for? Issei. If it's what I think it is, you all are in serious danger. Everyone paled as Issei said it without any sarcasm in his voice. Arthur then stood up and walked to Issei. Arthur. I'll take you to my sister's rooms. They're next to each other and soundproof. But you should be okay if you talk through the doors. Issei nodded and followed Arthur to the other Pendragon sisters' rooms. They stopped in front of Artoria's room first as Issei knocked on the door. He heard the muffled voice of Artoria and it sounded so heartbreaking. Artoria, go away Arthur. I'm not in the mood. Issei. I'm not your big bro. He heard a bit of scrambling in the room and the door then opened, revealing Artoria in a messy and tired state. Once her eyes landed on Issei, she was too shocked to say anything. Issei. I'm back. He didn't finish saying anything as Artoria grabbed Issei and put him in a bone-crunching hug, sobbing profusely as she held onto him. Issei hugged Artoria back, whispering into her ear and doing his damn hardest to comfort Artoria. Driven by the extra effect of Issei's comfort, Artoria planted a deep and loving kiss on Issei's lips, shocking the young boy as she didn't want to let him go. After breaking the kiss, Artoria whispered quietly, but enough for Issei to hear her. Artoria. Please. Don't leave me again. Issei tightened his hug on Artoria and whispered into her ear gently. Issei. I promise I'm not going anywhere this time. Artoria was in complete happiness, relaxed into Issei's embrace. He noticed the same tired expression on Artoria's face, and Issei knew this was something else at play. Issei looked to Arthur and spoke in a voice that didn't leave any room for talking back. Issei. Stay with Artoria. I'll make sure Mordred is okay, then I'm finding out what the hell is going on here. Arthur noticed the tone Issei used, but realized that something could be wrong, so he went with Artoria as Issei walked to Mordred's room. He knocks on the door and heard Mordred's voice, laced with disdain. Mordred. Piss off, Arthur. I'm not coming out. Issei. Not even for me. Mordred, like Artoria, scrambled out of her bed and made her way to the door, opening it to see Issei. Before Issei could even say a word, Mordred flung herself onto Issei, making him fall backwards. Mordred clung tightly against Issei, her sobs and wails reminding Issei of how hurt she was. Issei held onto Mordred tightly, whispering into her ear and holding her close. Mordred, like Artoria, stopped holding back her emotions and ended up kissing Issei on the lips, making the boy blush as she was the third girl in the last 10 minutes that kissed him. Breaking from the kiss, Mordred silently whimpered in Issei's arms as he whispered to her. Issei. It's okay, you're okay now. Mordred, for the first in long time, was smiling. She smiled as she was about to pass out. She slowly got up and Issei also stood up, asking Mordred a very serious question. Issei. Arthur told me you and Artoria had a very difficult time sleeping. Is that true? Mordred meekly nodded, not wanting to look Issei in his eyes. He only ruffled her hair, smiling at Mordred. Issei then took out a pair of infrared goggles and put them on, seeing that Mordred's room was dark as it gave him an advantage. Looking in it, he finds a creature that looked pale, had pure black eyes, razor-sharp nails, legs that were slightly altered, and a sickening look on its face. Issei knew exactly what it was, and he shouted very loud, scaring everyone in the household. Issei. Motherfucker. Even soundproof, the walls shook in Artoria's room as Issei yelled loudly. Issei pulled his phone out and made a call. Issei. Send me a couple of units. Make sure they're wearing infrared cameras. I want them yesterday. Move it. He hangs up and a squad of 40 MTF soldiers appeared. The soldier in charge approached. MTF leader. Sir, what are your orders? Issei. Contain that entity and make sure it doesn't escape. Fan out and search for others like it. MTF, yes sir. The MTF unit moved through the entire manor and through the sweep they found 4 more, plus the one that Issei captured. Issei. Send them to 95. MTF, yes sir. The MTF moved out with the 5 entities, and Issei took a breath, relieved that it was over. Everyone was now in Mordred's room as they wondered what the hell happened. Issei. What you all witnessed is something you must keep secret, okay? They nodded as Issei continued. Issei. You couldn't have seen it, but I saw them. Those were creatures better known as Sleep Killer or SCP-966. They prevent their prey from sleeping, and once the prey is asleep, the creatures kill them. All of the people in the room paled as Artoria and Mordred each hugged an arm on Issei, terrified at what would have happened. Issei. They're gone now, but they can only be seen in infrared light. Those creatures will not harm you again. I promise. Though that settled their worries some, Artoria, Mordred and Kuroka all wanted to stay with Issei, as he was going to be staying at the Pendragon Manor for now. He, along with the Pendragon sisters and Kuroka, went into the guest room and was in more comfortable clothing as he laid on the bed. Kuroka laid right on top of him, while Artoria laid on his right and Mordred on his left. The three girls immediately fell asleep, making Issei smile that all three will be much better after getting some well-deserved sleep. He then closed his eyes and fell asleep, keeping the three girls close, not letting them go this time around. Chapter 7. XK. Scene change, redacted. In one of the SCP Foundation sites, a set of double doors is standing firm. These intricate doors, once opened, lead to a barren dimension. Inside the domain, laid a truly horrific beast that is chained up, but only by one chain. The others have been broken, and it's only a matter of time before the last one breaks. This was known as SCP-2317, the door to another dimension, which housed a creature only known as the Devourer of Worlds. The creature moved its arm, which caused the final chain binding him to break. Noticing this, the creature punched a hole through the ground, breaking its arm to the surface. This sudden action caused a seismic shift in the Foundation, causing alarms to go off immediately. Every member felt it and knew exactly what's going on. The Devourer is free. Nobody knew the spell to bind the creature again, but there was one that can. The lead doctor in this site looked to the MTF soldier in charge. "Doctor, call our best fighter. We need him right away." MTF soldier. At once. The soldier ran to make the call, hoping that their best warrior would respond and help them out. Scene change, Pendragon Manor. Inside one of the guest rooms, 4 people are sleeping soundly, 3 of them with smiles. These 4 were Issei Haidu, Artoria and Mordred Pendragon, and Kuroka Taoju. They were all sound asleep, with the girls smiling in their sleep. After several hours of sleeping for the first time in days, all 3 girls woke up simultaneously, looking to each other, then to Issei, seeing he's still here. Their smiles were brighter and all 3 held on to him, finally having their man home. Issei then woke up to see all the girls holding him, making him smile and hold all of them. "Issei, I'm back. And I'm not leaving you this time." All of them smiled at his declaration, and their hearts beat a bit faster, not wanting to let him go again. Suddenly, his phone started buzzing. Seeing that it was someone from the Foundation, Issei answered. "Issei. Hello. MTF soldier. Sir. We have a serious emergency. XK class." Once Issei heard that, his entire demeanor changed. "Issei. What's going on?" "If soldier. The Devourer is free." Issei widened his eyes, shocked that the Devourer is now roaming free. He then hears its cry, signaling that the end could be near if something isn't done. "Issei. I need all units to stop that creature right now. All hands on deck." MTF soldier, "Yes sir." The call ends, and Issei, now agitated and extremely irate, gets up and is in his armor, not wasting a moment to be ready. Mordred, Artoria and Kuroka all looked at him worried, but knew that they can't stop him from doing his job. Mordred, "Please be careful." Kuroka, "Don't he hurt too badly?" Artoria, "Please come back as soon possible." Issei smiled and gave all of them a reassuring kiss. Issei, "I promise I'll be okay, girls. No beast is going to stop me." The girls all blushed at this action, but smiled and trusted Issei will come back alive. He then opened a portal and walked through, heading to either recontain or terminate the Devourer. All 3 girls had the same thought in mind. "Come back alive, Issei. I can't lose you again." Scene change, Pacific Ocean. In the Pacific Ocean, the Devourer is walking towards the country of Japan, hell-bent on causing mass destruction and ending every life in its way. Several choppers were in the air, from 3 different organizations. The SCP Foundation was the one in charge, which was also joined by the Global Occult Coalition, and surprisingly the Chaos Insurgency, which set all of their differences aside to save humanity from certain disaster. At the cliffs Issei died on, he sees the Devourer, which was 200 kilometers tall, had a single red eyes, massive horns that looked like wilted trees, and had a very nasty temper. Issei. "So you want to destroy my country, huh? Well then." Issei then dons his balance breaker and equips Ascalon, hoping to damage the creature in some way. Issei. "Then I will be the one to seal your ass again." He then flew straight to the creature, planning on stopping its path to Japan. Issei met the beast head-on, slashing at its shoulder, hoping a single hit could slow it down. The Devourer roared in slight pain, seeing that it got injured. It then turned to Issei, very pissed off that some mere human was able to injure the creature. Issei noticed that holy weaponry can deal damage to the creature, and he relayed that to everyone that he could. Issei. "All units, use holy weaponry against the Devourer. It's weak against them, and can do real damage. I repeat, use holy weaponry against it." "Yes sir, understood." "Roger." Issei smirked and evaded the creature's side-like hands, barely missing him as the creature was very pissed that it got hurt. Drake then spoke to Issei in a matter-of-fact tone. Drake. Issei, once the creature is weakened, I'll take over and use the spell to seal it once more. Issei. You got it, pal. Multiple choppers then appeared and began firing at the beast, which was being hit by holy ammunition. Issei smirked and then relayed his plan to everyone. Issei. Once the beast is weakened, I'm going to seal it once more. I know the spell, and I can have it be reinforced. Every organization confirmed it, and then the beast was starting to get weaker. All that were involved kept on injuring the creature, which was weakened to the point of it being fatal. Issei called a ceasefire, and everyone stopped firing to see him seal the devourer once more. Drake then took over Issei's body and begun the chant to seal the devourer. Drake. For all that is living. Chains then begin to shoot around the devourer, holding it down as Drake continued to chant. Drake. Past, present and future of man. The devourer roared, trying to break the chains, but to no avail. Drake. To prevail over anarchy and destruction. All of the organizations are stunned that the beast is getting chained once more, praying to whoever that the creature will not break out anytime soon. Drake. You are sentenced to eternal imprisonment. Issei, who was under Drake's control, opened his eyes revealing the emerald green glow. Drake. And banished to the realm of void. As soon as Drake finished the chant, the devourer is completely bound at its arms, legs, torso, horns and neck, completely immobilizing it as it shrunk smaller, its door being opened and pulling it inside. The doors closed once the beast had been pulled in, ending the nightmare that all had feared. Issei opened his eyes once more, showing them to be brown this time, not green. He then spoke with a sense of pride and achievement. Issei. The devourer has been recontained. Several cheers were heard, and the three organizations then returned to their own undisclosed locations, not to be heard from for some time. Issei took a deep breath and flew back to the Pendragon Manor, deactivating his armor and getting crushed by the Pendragon sisters and Kuroka. He only smiled and hugged them all back, happy to return. Issei then called his first girlfriend Kalawiner and told her everything. She freaked out a bit but was glad Issei was safe. Issei also said he'll be coming back and he's bringing 3 more girls with him, making Kalawiner almost upset. She then asked who it was, as Issei told her. Issei. You remember the Pendragon sisters and Kuroka, right? Kalawiner. Those 3 are the ones you started a relationship with. Issei. Yes, those 3. Kalawiner sighed on the phone, but she knew them before she was killed the first time. Kalawiner. Alright. I approve of them, but remember that I'm the first. Issei. I know, but I will make sure you and the others get equal treatment. I love you. Kalawiner. Love you too, darling. Maybe when you get home, I'll have a nice surprise for you. Kalawiner spoke in an extra flirty tone, making Issei blush a bit and wondering what the surprise was. The call ended and Issei opened a portal to his place, allowing his 3 other girlfriends to come along. Artoria, Mordred and Kuroka all smiled and followed Issei, going through the portal to meet his parents and first girlfriend. Chapter 8 Fallout. Scene change, Gremory Mansion. In the mansion of the Gremory family, multiple people are gathered in the main hall. Of those people are Surzich's Lucifer, his wife Grafia Lucifuge, the mother of Surzich's and Ria's Venelana Gremory Bale, her husband and the father of the children Zeoticus Gremory, and Ria's alongside her peerage, save for Rasuius. Right now, Ria's and her crew were in front of the Gremory family, nervous looks on their faces. Zeoticus, having enough of the silence, decided to speak up. Zeoticus. Ria's, my daughter. Please tell me it isn't true of what you have said. Ria's. Father, Venelana. Ria's, dear, we do not have the patience or the tolerance for any deception. Tell us, did you or did you not say that you regret reviving Issei and should have left him dead? Ria's, seeing how serious her mother was, meekly nodded. This made the matriarch very volatile, but she had kept her composure. Venelana. Ria's. Why did you say that to him? Zeoticus. We want the truth, Ria's. Not some overly dramatic sob story on how you were wronged. Ria's. Because. He didn't confess to me. Surzich's, staying quiet, spoke up in a tone that had emitted shock and high disdain. Surzich's. You're telling me that because Issei didn't confess his feelings to you, that gives you all the right to berate him. Are you serious right now? Ria's. Brother. Surzich's. This isn't your brother speaking, this is your Devil King talking. If I may intrude for a moment. That voice was none other than Azazel, who had a serious look on his face, which didn't spell so well for the peerage. Surzich's. Is there something I should be aware of, Azazel? Azazel. Yes, but you're not going to like it. The Gremory parents, Surzich's and Grafia, all waited to hear what Azazel was going to say, but Riaz spoke up. Riaz. It's not that serious. Azazel turned to Riaz and spoke in an extremely harsh tone. Azazel. My student nearly died because of you all. This gained everyone's attention and they wanted to know what happened. Azazel then pulled out a memory orb containing what had transpired, courtesy of Drag. Flashback. Riaz. Issei. Issei. Yes. Riaz. What am I to you? Issei. Well, you're the president and you're an ass. Riaz ran off through the doors, causing Issei to go wide-eyed. It didn't take long before Akeno voiced her displeasure. Akeno. That wasn't very sensitive of you, Issei. Issei looked to each member in the room as he hears all of them voice their disdain and disappointment to him. Gibba. You shouldn't have said that, Issei. Zenobia. I may be thick-headed, but even I know that was uncalled for. Asia. Issei, how could you? Issei wanted to speak up, but he couldn't find his voice. Inside his soul, a massive red dragon that is residing in him looked up and heard everyone speaking towards Issei negatively. This dragon is Drag, the red dragon of domination residing in Issei's sacred gear, the boosted gear. Drag. This can't end well. As he thought that, Issei tried to go after Riaz, but was stopped by Akeno. Akeno. I wouldn't go after her. The current Issei doesn't understand. Irina decided to voice her disappointment as well. Irina. Moo. Issei, you are so mean. Why couldn't you see the pain from Riaz? Issei, in a hope that he isn't severely outnumbered, turned to Gasper, who shyly made his voice known. Gasper. I think Issei messed up. He's a bad guy. That hurt Issei internally, but his one hope came from Ravel, who stayed quiet most of the argument. Ravel. I feel like it's my fault all of this is happening. Akeno. It's not your fault, Ravel. It's Issei's for not understanding Riaz enough. Kaneko, who remained quiet, voiced her own thoughts. Kaneko. The pervert really is the worst. Issei, his heart not sure if it could take much more, couldn't utter a single word. The final nail in the coffin came from Riaz, who screamed loud enough for everyone to hear. Riaz. I regret reviving you. I should have left you dead and go with Riser. Flashback over. Once the memory orb finished playing what had transpired, silence was the only thing anyone could hear. The peerage all hung their heads in shame. Grafia tried her hardest not to cry, but shed a few tears. Surzich's hair covered his eyes and was shaking visibly. Zeoticus was trying to remain calm, but was having difficulty, and poor Venelana silently wept for the poor boy. It was that moment that Venelana stood up and spoke to the peerage. Venelana. All of you, save for Rasuius, will not be with Issei anymore. Your marriage arrangement with him will be cancelled immediately. Riaz wanted to retort, but the look on her mother's eyes said enough. Right after Venelana had said her piece, a low growl was heard, and Surzich's looked to the peerage. Surzich's? Which one of you was that? Everyone looked around confused as well, as the growl was heard again, this time much louder. They all turned their heads to see a very large reptile that had a very disconfigured body, extremely sharp teeth, its eyes looked to be covered, and its growl sent shivers down everyone's spines. Surzich's? What is that? Grafia? I don't know. The reptile roared at everyone, and Surzich's had immediately opened a comms portal to Issei. Issei could be heard grouchy as Surzich's called him at a bad time. Issei. This better be important. Surzich's. There's a large angry creature here, and it looks very disfigured. Issei. What does it look like? The hologram of Issei saw it, and immediately knew what was going on. Issei. I'll be right over. Not even 10 seconds later, Issei appears and stood face to face with the creature in question. Issei. So you decide to break out? Fine by me, I'll recontain your ass. Issei donned his balance breaker and whipped the reptile into submission very quickly. Everyone that saw this was shocked as Issei pulled out his phone. Issei. I have 682. Bring me a containment team and fast. Another portal opened and 6 MTF soldiers appeared with a cage, placing 682 as it was called into the cell and leaving right away. Issei sighed and was about to leave before everyone called out to him. Issei. What is it? Then Alana approached and bowed to the boy alongside Zeoticus, Grafia and Surzich's. Then Alana. Issei. We're so sorry for your pain. Zeoticus. If there is anything you need, please tell us. Issei only smiled and hugged the Grimory parents, speaking gently to them. Issei. You two don't need to apologize. You're already forgiven, as well as Grafia and Surzich's. The Grimory parents were shocked, but they hugged Issei back as their own son, smiling gratefully for his forgiveness. Grafia and Surzich's also smiled, knowing that they have also been forgiven as well. Riaz was about to shout at Issei, but one look shut her up very quickly. Issei. You almost killed me. All of you, save for Ravel and Rasuius, have given me Dragon's Fall, but I am cured of that thanks to some people. Everyone was shocked as Issei revealed he had new girlfriends and was cured of his disease, but they all smiled as they were happier for him. Issei then looked to the parents. Issei. I should go check on the others. He then opened a portal and walked through, heading to check on everyone else. Scene change, Asgard. In the hidden mountains of Norway, an ancient and beautiful realm was shown. This was Asgard, home of the Valkyrie, Odin, Thor, and where Vesuvius had originally come from. Issei walked through the portal and took in the beautiful scenery, only to be met with several spears pointed his way. Several Valkyries stopped him, but 3 caught his attention the most. All of them had red eyes, but their hair colors were different. The first one had black hair and wore a hood, the second had pink, and the last one had blonde hair. Their names were Thrud, Hildr, and Ortland. Hildr. How did you find this place? Ortland. Who are you? Brud. You have a death wish coming here, outsider. Just before anyone else could do or say anything, a powerful voice made their presence known. Stand down. Now. All of the Valkyries stood down and looked behind them, only to see the Allfather look a bit irate. He walked over towards Issei, and the 3 Valkyrie that were right in front of him stood scared on what their ruler would say. Instead, Odin only smirked and spoke. Odin. Issei, my boy. It's been too long, dragon. Issei smirked and approached Odin, taking his hand in a firm shake, shocking all of the Valkyrie. Odin looked around and spoke in a more authoritative tone. Odin. This boy is the Red Dragon Emperor. Nobody will attack him under any circumstances. All of the Valkyrie stood silent, stunned that it was the Red Dragon Emperor that stepped foot on their land. Thrud, Hildr and Ortland were terrified that they almost attacked Issei, as Odin spoke to them directly. Odin. Thrud, Hildr, Ortland. You 3 will be his personal guardians until further notice. Is that clear? Yes, Allfather. Odin nodded, before looking to Issei with a more serious look. Odin. Kiddo. We have a problem. Issei. What kind of problem? Odin. Vesuvius, the Valkyrie under your care, was forced into an arranged marriage. And she is terrified of the one she's arranged to. Who is it? Odin. His name is Dramrant, an ancient god that is ruthless to women. Chapter 9 Saving the Valkyrie. Issei had heard a name he had never heard of before, and that name was supposedly a god. He looked Odin in the eyes and asked him. Issei. What does this individual look like? Odin had a picture of Dramrant, and it's safe to say that the look he had given was causing Issei to have chills down his spine. He looked up to Odin and asked again. Issei. I don't honestly understand. Why is he in an arranged marriage with Vesuvius? Odin. Because our traditions say that those who marries the strongest Valkyrie, that being Vesuvius, is said to be in charge of all the Valkyrie in Asgard. And knowing just how he acts around women. You can imagine. Issei had a very disgusted and darkened look, mentally thanking Drake for helping him drop his perversion. He then heard a little sniffling, causing him to turn back to see Thrud, Hildr and Ortland, all having tears starting to form, with Ortland nearly falling apart. Issei was saddened to see all 3 of them about to cry, as he walked to them and spoke in a very gentle and calm voice. Issei. Thrud, Hildr, Ortland. Look at me. All 3 Valkyrie looked to Issei, tears threatening to fall. Issei only gave them a gentle smile, making all of them blush a little bit before he spoke again. Issei. I'll protect you. No matter what happens, I won't let this god, or whatever he is, harm you. Thrud and Hildr looked shocked at his statement, but Ortland was unable to hold herself back and flung herself onto Issei, her dam of emotions breaking like a tidal wave. Issei was surprised at this, but held onto Ortland as she cried hard in his arms, her emotions running high. After several minutes go by, Issei still held onto Ortland, as he saw that the emotional toll was too much for her. Gently, he picked her up in a princess carry and made sure she wouldn't fall. He also looked to the other 2 and saw that they were about to start crying as well. Issei spoke gently as he held up Ortland in his arms. Thrud and Hildr looked to Issei, and both had small smiles on their faces. Ortland heard it as well as she was slowly waking up, not wanting to leave Issei's arms. Odin looked at this and smiled, before speaking up. Odin. It appears that all 3 of them are wanting you to be there with them. I will also tell Vesuvius of this, and I'm pretty sure she'd be alright with this. The 3 Valkyrie blushed hard at what Odin said, but Issei just shook his head with a soft grin. Another voice made themselves known, as he had a few lets with him, all looking very similar. This man had black eyes, gold hair, wore what appeared to be a priest attire, and had what appeared to be dogs. They all were red, had extremely sharp teeth, spikes on their backs, and appeared to be speaking human language. This was the god known as Dramrant, and his pets were ones Issei knew too well, SCP-939s. Dramrant. That's cute, but the Valkyrie will be very obedient to me, and me alone. You will be replaced, Odin. Thrud and Hildr stood behind Issei, gripping onto his sleeves as Ortland buried her face away from Dramrant, as all 3 Valkyrie were shaking from him. Odin was about to say something, but soon Issei began to laugh. Dramrant. Is something funny, human? You call yourself a god. How rich? Issei gently set Ortland down and with her sisters as he stood face to face with Dramrant. Unknown to everyone but Issei, he sent a message saying 939 was uncontained as Dramrant snarkily spoke. Dramrant. And who are you to speak that, mortal? Issei replied in a very serious tone, speaking with true authority. Issei. Meh, not that much. Issei revealed the boosted gear as Dramrant was shocked. The multiple 939s were snarling but didn't move. Issei smirked and spoke once more. Issei. And as for your marriage with Rasuius, I'm the one that's cancelling it. Dramrant. Oh really? You and what army? Issei only pointed behind Dramrant and once he did, Dramrant paled. 60 MTF soldiers appeared and had their weapons drawn, aiming them at Dramrant and the 939s. Issei seized the moment and removed the SCPs from the god and moved them to the MTF, where many of them retreated to an undisclosed site and only 10 remained to aid Issei. He then directed the soldiers to other areas as Issei looked to Auden. Issei. Can you make the challenge official? Auden. It's already been made. Issei smirked, then he and Dramrant both teleported to the arena where it's already packed. In the booth, Rasuius was there in a wedding dress that made her extremely uncomfortable and felt very revealing to her. Auden and the other 3 Valkyrie were in the same booth as Rasuius, where they all waited for the battle between Issei and Dramrant. Once Dramrant appeared, he began to laugh maniacally and speak. Dramrant. You foolish mortal. You dare to defy the almighty Dramrant. I will rule above all. Asgard will be mine. Just shut the fuck up and fight. Dramrant was shocked that Issei spoke that blunt to him, and before he could even blink, Issei charged at him quickly, pummeling the god into oblivion. Everyone saw this and cheered on the red dragon, as Auden and the Valkyrie were watching in the booth. Rasuius was smiling and had her hand over her heart, Thud looked on with a small smile, Hilda was smiling brightly as her hands were clasped together over her heart, and Ortland watched in awe, seeing the one person she felt was perfect for her heart. Auden saw all of the girls' reactions and smiled, having a thought of his own. Issei, my boy. Please take care of my Valkyrie. You have won their hearts. Issei beat Dramrant extremely badly, as Dramrant pushed Issei off. Dramrant. Enough. I am a god, you dull creature. And I will not be humiliated by. Issei walked away from a beaten and bloodied Dramrant, only speaking 2 words. Puny. God. Dramrant was starting to stand again, as he conjured his magic, hoping to kill Issei. Everyone saw this and wanted to scream, but Issei knew better. He had the boosted gear silently boost his power greatly, and before Dramrant could do anything else, Issei fired the largest dragon shot anyone had ever seen, completely destroying and ending Dramrant once and for all. Once the light was down, everyone saw Issei still standing, and cheers erupted in the arena. Rasuius and the other Valkyrie immediately teleported down to Issei, happy that he won. Without warning, Issei turned around and was in a massive bone-crushing hug from Rasuius. He was also surrounded by Thrud, Hildra and Ortland, as all 4 of them were very happy that Issei won. Auden smiled at the scene and descended down to meet with Issei, who was smothered by the 4 Valkyrie. He was accompanied by one other Valkyrie, as she had glacier white hair, amethyst eyes, and carried her own destructive spear. This was Brynhildr, the oldest sister of the other Valkyrie. Red Dragon. Issei looked to Auden, as Rasuius and the other Valkyrie looked to him as well. Auden. Thank you for dealing with that ignorant brat. He had it coming for a long time. Issei. Don't mention it, but who's this? Brud. Brynhildr. Issei. Brynhildr. Hildr. She's the oldest sister of us. Issei. Ah, I see. Brynhildr. Issei Haidu. Thank you for saving my little sisters. Issei. It's no worries at all. Besides, I'm not going to let some lame god control them for their own sick pleasure. Brynhildr smiled, while her little sisters blushed and smiled at Issei's declaration. Auden then spoke up with his own piece. Auden. As for them, they will be staying with you. Issei, who was drinking a bit of water, spat it out very quickly as he looked to Auden shocked. Seriously? Just like that? Auden laughed at Issei's shock and spoke again. I'm sure they won't mind it at all. Plus, it'll be a better proven alliance between the 3 factions and the Norse pantheon. Issei thought for a moment, since he couldn't argue Auden's point. He then looked to the Allfather and nodded. Issei. Very well, though I will need to make a call real quick. Auden, thank you Red Dragon. Brynhildr. I'm so proud of you girls. Just don't give me little nieces and nephews early. Brud, Hildra and Ortland had extreme blushes on their faces as Issei had made his call, informing his parents and other girlfriends on what's happening. Although they weren't so happy, they understood and went through with it. He also knows that he needs to get back to school, which Issei knows that it will be a massive headache. But Issei knows that he won't be alone, as he'll try to get his girls into school as well, so they can experience what it's like and hopefully make some new friends. Chapter 10 Back to School. It had been a few days since Issei had killed a god, becoming the first Red Dragon Emperor to ever do so. This had earned him the nickname God Slayer. Now, Issei is back in his Kuo Academy attire, which didn't fit him too much, as he had gotten significantly leaner, and his attitude had done a complete 180 from last time. As he approached the gates, many students saw him and didn't recognize him. Who's that? I don't know, but he's hot. The guys, however. Another prince. Come on. First Kiba, now this guy. I'll kick your ass. Issei glared at the last boy coldly and spoke with that same cold tone. How about you try it? You won't last against me. The third boy almost wet himself and immediately he ran away, not wanting to provoke Issei any further. After that, he sat in his normal chair, opening his text messages and looking through files of the other SCPs, seeing if he could do anything to terminate them. Since it was empty in the class, Issei had a faint smile as he read a certain file. SCP-610, or the flesh that hates. Issei was reading it over, seeing if there was any way to terminate the disease in an abandoned sector in Russia. While he was reading, every other student in the class was coming in, and once they saw Issei, they whispered among themselves. Shortly after, the teacher came in and noticed Issei, wondering who it was. Teacher. I didn't know we had a transfer student. Issei. Wow. I'm gone for over a week, and this is how I'm treated now. That statement made everyone gasp, shocked that they now know it's Issei, and not a transfer student. Zenobia, Asia, and Irina all wanted to talk to Issei, but he shot them a look that said to back off, causing the three of them to be upset and just take their seats. Time skip, lunch. Lunch soon rolled around, and Issei was on the rooftop alone, eating the bento that his girlfriends all contributed to. He smiled as he saw that all of his girls had enjoyed each other's company, and they all got along really well. As he was eating quietly, a voice made itself known, and it was one that surprised Issei. You're back now, huh? Issei. Sona. What are you doing here? Sona. I was wondering where you had gone off to, but I'm glad you're back. Plus, I think there's a couple of people that really missed you. Issei was a bit confused as Sona looked behind her. He also looked behind Sona, and there were two people that actually shocked him that wanted to see him. Momo. Tsubaki. Unable to hold back, Momo ended up running towards Issei, crashing into him while kissing his lips hard. This caused both Issei and Momo to fall, with Issei landing on his back as Momo was right on top of him. Momo didn't care, as she kept on kissing Issei hard, not caring that her skirt had lifted up and exposed her panties to everyone. After a few minutes, Momo stopped kissing Issei as she had a few tears falling, seeing that Issei was back. Issei, however, was stunned at Momo's sudden boldness, and a thought came to his mind. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. As he thought that, Sona and Tsubaki eventually pulled Momo right off of Issei, letting him get up, but as soon as he did, Issei got kissed again. This time by Tsubaki, shocking the brunette greatly. This kiss only lasted about 30 seconds before Issei was red and stunned. What? Wait. What? Sona then whispered into Issei's ear. Both of them have fallen for you, and I was even surprised. Issei was shocked and silent, having a tough time processing everything. He then looked at the pair, which both Tsubaki and Momo were blushing heavily. Issei only smiled and quickly kissed both girls on their lips briefly, smiling at them. The moment didn't last long as some scraping could be heard. Issei looked over and did not look amused. Everyone else saw it and were confused. By them was a statue that was mainly yellow in color, some spray paint on its head, and appeared to me made of concrete and rebar. Damn it. Not again. The girls were confused as Issei made a call. As he did, the girls turned their heads away briefly as more scraping was heard, and soon the statue was right in front of Tsubaki, freaking her out and causing her to nearly scream. Issei looked at the statue once more as he spoke to the girls. Issei. Whatever you three do, don't break eye contact with this sculpture. They all nodded as a portal opened and 4 MTF soldiers appeared and carried it away, making the three confused, but at the same time Tsubaki was shaking. Issei saw this and held onto her, forcing Sona's queen to grip onto Issei tightly, not ever wanting to let go from that. As he was holding Tsubaki, a thought crossed his mind and he paled at it. Kalwerner is going to kill me. Sona slightly chuckled at this, as out of thin air, Kalwerner had appeared and emitted a sinister aura, and Issei knew he was in trouble. Issei. Dear. Issei paled as he looked to Kalwerner, scared about what she was going to do to him. Issei. Yo babe. You look gorgeous as usual. Did you get a new haircut? Kalwerner grabbed him by the ear and pulled him. Hard. Issei was screaming in pain and fear, but she was not having it. She also looked at the two girls that kissed Issei and had a sweet smile that promised pain if they did it again. Momo and Tsubaki shivered and were scared that Kalawiner would actually fulfill her promise. Issei, unfortunately, knew that he is in a world of pain. Kalawiner then looked at Sona and whispered into her ear. Although I approve of those two, let them know that they can't do things like that behind my back. Sona had chills, but nodded nonetheless. Kalawiner then smiled and dragged Issei off, making sure he knew not to do anything like what happened again. Scene change, Underworld. In the Beelzebub castle, Ajuka was working on a specific formula but was having extreme difficulty on perfecting it. He was trying to develop a cure for the SCP that has taken a chunk of Russia, the flesh that hates. A knock was heard on his door, knocking him out of his stupor. Ajuka, come in. The door opens and reveals two extremely beautiful girls. The first one had red eyes, green hair, and wore glasses, while the other had blonde hair with blue tips, blue eyes, and both girls had an aura of elegance to them. These two were Leisha Astaroth, Ajuka's niece, and Sekvera Gares, Leisha's cousin. Leisha, hello uncle. Sekvera. Greetings, Lord Ajuka. Ajuka. Ah, Leisha and Sekvera. What brings you two here at this time? Leisha. Well uncle, I was wondering if you could get in touch with the Red Dragon. Ajuka. Is there a reason why? Sekvera. To be honest. Sekvera and Leisha both became nervous and a bit scared, which didn't go unnoticed by Ajuka. Ajuka. What's wrong, girls? Leisha then showed her arm to Ajuka, and his eyes widened a little bit, making him more serious. Ajuka. How long ago was this? Leisha. Just about 15 minutes ago. Sekvera was nervous that Leisha may be getting sick, and Ajuka wasted no time calling Issei, who was getting himself punished by Kalawiner. Ajuka. Sorry to bother you Issei, but we have a very serious problem. Issei. What is it? Ajuka. Leisha has a rash on her arm, and I need you to help me figure out if it's that. Issei understood what Ajuka means, as he answered. Issei. I'll be there. Hold tight. Ajuka ended the call and waited for Issei, as Leisha and Sekvera were nervous on seeing Issei, but also worried for Leisha's health and safety. Chapter 11 Diagnosis and Loving Two Heiresses. With Issei. Issei laid on his bed exhausted, drained, and extremely weary. Around him were his girlfriends, who were all stripped of their clothes with smiles on their faces as they slept. He looked at each of them, and he only smiled wearily. Why he was exhausted was because his girls all drained him dry, making sure he knew the consequences of kissing other girls without them knowing. As he was laying down, a communication circle forms near his ear, and Issei responds in a very weary voice. Issei. What is it? The voice on the other end was none other than Ajuka, who spoke in a serious tone. Ajuka. Leisha has a rash on her arm, and I need you to help me figure out if it's that. Issei had a more serious look, knowing exactly what Ajuka was talking about. Issei. I'll be there. Hold tight. Issei then gently moved, causing his girls to wake up and see him trying to get out. Kalawiner. You're not going anywhere. Issei shivered from Kalawiner, as Mordred spoke up. Mordred. You still need to be punished, bad husband. Issei then looked to Kuroka, whose eyes were still full of lust. Too much, love. Nai. Issei. You're not leaving yet. He looked to Artoria for some sort of hope, but it's not there. Your lesson isn't over yet, darling. Issei was not in a playing mood, so he spoke what was told of him. Issei. It was Ajuka that called me. All of them stopped, then looked a bit serious. Kalawiner. What did he want? Issei. His niece may have that in her, and he wants me to see if it is or not. All of them understood what he meant by saying that as they all let him get out and dressed, wasting no time as he was in his uniform in seconds. Issei opened a portal, but gave all of his girls a kiss, making them satisfied and smiling before he left. Scene change, Ajuka's office. As Ajuka awaited Issei's arrival, he was worried that the rash on Leisha's arm was already bad enough, and he's hoping that it's not what he's thinking it is. A couple of seconds later, a portal opened up and from it came Issei in his casual uniform. Both Leisha and Sekvera blushed, seeing how Issei had changed from a perverted boy into a man. Ajuka breathed a sigh of relief as Issei spoke. Issei. So where could I find Leisha? The moment he said that, Leisha had stepped forward, and Issei had a blush creep on his face, despite it being faint. He shook it off for a moment as he gently took a peek at her arm. Leisha was blushing up a storm, and her heart and thoughts raced 1,000 miles a minute. Issei realized that he may need to use a special machine, so he had an MTF soldier bring his scanner, which he used to scan anything that's possibly infected with SCP-610. He held Leisha's arm gently, and he scanned it for a minute. It was reading, and Issei handed Ajuka a vial as soon as it stopped scanning. Upon closer look, Issei was very upset, and his readings was not what he wanted to see. Issei. Damn. It's not looking good. Ajuka. Is it? Issei grimly nodded, and Ajuka almost had a heart attack right there. However, Issei had a needle and filled it with a liquid in the vial as he gave Leisha a shot, which caused the rashes to disappear within seconds. All of them were shocked, but they all had a smile, seeing that Issei basically found a cure for SCP-610. Bajuka. Amazing. How did you find that out? Issei. Don't think you're the only one trying to find a cure. Take a look at this and use that to make more. Issei handed Ajuka a file with several different formulas and equations. Ajuka immediately then began to use his magic to try and produce more of the cure for SCP-610. Issei's sweat dropped and thought to himself. I forgot he's a complete nerd when it comes to things like that. I may be regretting it now. Unknown to him, both Leisha and Sekiryuutei were blushing up severe storms and they were squirming a little bit. Not able to hold back anymore, Leisha went up and hugged Issei from behind, cinching it in on him. Sekiryuutei did the same thing, but not as tight as Leisha. Issei was extremely red in the face, and when Ajuka looked back, he smiled to himself with one thought. Please, Issei. Take care of my niece and her cousin. They deserve the best. Issei had finally built up the courage to speak, trying not to stutter too badly. What? Both girls were red, as Issei couldn't see, but they both nodded, confirming that they had a massive crush on the red dragon. Issei felt both Leisha and Sekiryuutei nod, as he had a smile that the two couldn't see. Ajuka turned back to see the beautiful sight and took a picture. Once it was done, Leisha and Sekiryuutei saw the camera and were blushing extremely heavily. Uncle? Sekiryuutei was too embarrassed to say anything, as her and Leisha buried their faces in his shoulders. Issei only chuckled and turned around, wrapping his arms around both girls' waists as he whispered into their ears. Issei. Don't worry girls. I'll be sure to take care of you too. The two of them only smiled softly, as Issei knew he also had to make a call. He rang his first girlfriend Kalwerner as she answered. Kalwerner? You coming home yet, dear? Issei. I'm about to, but I have something to tell you. Kalwerner? Let me guess. More girls. Issei didn't say anything, as Kalwerner only sighed a bit frustrated. Who is it this time? Issei only put his phone on camera and showed Kalwerner who it was, that being Leisha and Sekiryuutei. Kalwerner was surprised and spoke to Issei. Kalwerner? You managed to win their hearts. Of all girls. Issei nodded a bit sheepishly, but Kalwerner giggled a bit and spoke. Kalwerner? They pass. I have no problem with them. Both Sekiryuutei and Leisha then, without warning, kissed Issei on his lips as Kalwerner watched with an amused grin. Issei was scared at how Kalwerner would punish him, but Kalwerner just laughed, as Issei was embarrassed. Sekiryuutei and Leisha were also giggling like schoolgirls, which made Issei even more embarrassed. He just sighed and facepalmed, opening a portal, then soon taking himself, Leisha and Sekiryuutei to his place, where the two of them will meet his other girlfriends. Unknown to him, more girls were coming very soon. Chapter 12 A Startling Find. After Issei introduced Leisha and Sekiryuutei to his other girlfriends, all of the girls got along very well, which made him smile. He then takes a seat on the couch and takes a deep breath, catching some form of peace for a little while. Seeing how exhausted he was, Issei laid on the couch and closed his eyes for a bit, catching up on some sleep he desperately needed. All of the girls saw that Issei was asleep, and all of them were blushing a bit at how cute he looked asleep. Kuroka had a small smile on her face and changed to her cat form to join Issei, laying down near his head and nuzzling herself on his head before sleeping. The other girls let them sleep as they went to Issei's room to look for hoodies to steal from him. Time skip 4 hours later. After 4 hours of being asleep, Issei groggily opened his eyes, rubbing them a bit. He looked up to see Kuroka sleeping peacefully in her cat form, making Issei smile a little. Issei then sat up slowly and picked her up gently, laying Kuroka in his lap as he started to gently scratch behind her ears. Kuroka was mewling a bit loudly as Issei had made her feel really good, making the Nekashu look up. You really know how to make me feel good, Naya. I know my girls well. Plus, I know you love your ears being scratched. Yes, you're right. Kuroka was about to fall asleep in Issei's lap again as his phone started to buzz. Issei picked it up and answered. Hello. On the other side, an MTF soldier was speaking to Issei. Sir, you may not believe this, but we have encountered something you may not believe. I'm a dragon. Try me. Very well then. We found and fixed the body of Joan of Arc. Hold up. Run that by me again. We found the body of Joan of Arc and we believe to have a second body resembling her very closely. Issei was a bit stunned as he thought that Joan of Arc was long dead. He then grew a serious look on his face. Which side are they at? 37, sir. I'll have to see this myself. I'm on my way. Issei hung up the phone as he looked at Kuroka. Sorry kitty, but I have to go. Kuroka. Naya, but why? Apparently, some of my guys found the body of Joan of Arc. That alerted Kuroka greatly and she looked to Issei as if he was crazy. Really? I'm not believing it myself, but I am going to see this for myself. Can you tell the other girls about what's going on? Hiroka changed back and left to tell the girls, who were surprised and went to the living room to talk to him before he left. Halwarner. I'm not believing it. Mordred. I've heard stories about her, but she couldn't be alive now. Artoria. I don't understand how your soldiers managed to do that. Sikvera. How is that possible? Laisha. Even if they did find her body, wouldn't it have been rotten? Issei was overwhelmed with the questions as he put his hand up to make his girls quiet. Issei. I get you all are confused and believe me, so am I. But that's why I'm going to see this for myself, just to see if it's the truth or not. All of the girls nodded as they all gave him a kiss on his lips briefly before heading back to his room. Once all of the girls are gone, Issei opened a portal to the site he was informed that Joan of Arc was at. Scene change, redacted site. Issei emerged from the portal, where one of the MTF soldiers waited and saluted him. Sir. Issei. At ease, soldier. Where's the body at? Right this way, sir. Issei followed the soldier to a laboratory where he saw 2 tubes. He also saw a little yellow creature made entirely of slime, and it was making little noises. Issei smiled and picked up the little slime, which was known as SCP-999. Issei. Hey, little guy. Sorry I haven't visited often. The little slime just cooed and moved itself around Issei, making the brunette laugh. Issei then held the slime in his arm as he decided to take a look in the tubes. In one of them was a beautiful young girl with long blonde hair, a nice figure, fair skin, and was asleep deeply. Issei was stunned that this was the girl known as Joan of Arc. Inside the other tube, Issei saw another girl that looked very similar to Joan, except her skin was pale, her hair was snow white, also had a very beautiful figure, and also deeply asleep. Issei. How did this happen? Scientist. The MTF were doing a routine patrol in France when they came across a charred body. They weren't sure what it was, so they gently took it here and placed it on this tube, which turned out to be Joan of Arc. As for the other, we recovered the original body, but in the process, it ended up creating a new body. Issei was a bit fascinated as he looked at both sleeping girls and noticed that their vitals were about to be normal. Open the tubes. The scientist nodded and opened the tubes, which caused some steam to come out from the tubes. After they were opened, the blonde Joan started to move slightly in her sleep while her body was shaking a little bit. Issei saw this and realized that she could be having a nightmare, so he gently took her wrists as her thrashing became more violent. Seeing this, Issei spoke in as gentle and soothing a tone as he can muster up. Issei. It's okay. You're safe. The blonde Joan immediately shot her eyes open, revealing an entrancing amethyst color. She slowly looked at Issei, and her quick breathing slowed down, a blush starting to creep up on her face. Issei only smiled at her softly, making her blush worse. After a few moments, she spoke in a voice that could attract and soothe even the most violent of beasts. Where am I? He only smiled gently as he spoke. You're in France still. Might I know your name? The young girl, looking at Issei, blushed worse as she heard how gentle and caring his voice was. A bit hesitant, she did tell her name, which turned out to be Jeanne d'Arc. This kinda shocked Issei, but at the same time he was also happy to know who it was as he introduced himself. Well Jeanne, my name is Issei Haidu. It's quite an honor to meet you. She was smiling as her eyes laid on Issei, seeing that she could trust him. Before any other words could be said, the other girl that looked a lot like Jeanne started to wake up, looking around a bit wondering where she was. Once her eyes landed on Issei, her thoughts and instincts took over as she grabbed a sword and placed it at his neck, glaring at Issei as the MTF soldiers aimed their guns at her. Issei raised his arm, signaling his soldiers to stand down. They hesitantly did so, but stayed at the low ready just in case, as Issei looked at the other Jeanne. Jeanne. Who the hell are you? Why am I here? Issei, remaining calm, spoke in a gentle manner. Issei. Please calm down. I'm not here to hurt you. Jeanne kept her glare at Issei, but after seeing his eyes for a moment, her glare softened a bit as she removed the sword from his neck, but still gripped it close to her. Jeanne. It looks like you know what the hell is going on. Speak before I burn you. My name is Issei Haidu, and I promise I'm not going to hurt you. Could I please know your name? Jeanne thought for a moment and seeing that he wasn't lying, decided to tell him. My name is Jeanne d'Arc. Issei, the MTF and the scientists all looked at each other and wondered if this was real. Issei. Then. If she's Jeanne d'Arc and you are as well. Issei's brain was having a breakdown as he was not able to process how it was possible to have 2 Jeanne d'Arcs in the same place. Seeing him having a mental breakdown, the blonde Jeanne only giggled at it while the other Jeanne smirked, seeing at how Issei was not being able to process this information. He took a deep breath and spoke. Issei. This could be very confusing, as both of you are Jeanne d'Arc. I think I may know how to tell you two apart. He looked at the blonde Jean and kept her name the same as he looked at the other one and decided to call her Jean Alter. Both girls looked at Issei, then smiled as they accepted their names. Issei was happy about that, but threw both girls a towel. Issei, you two might wanna. Looking down for a moment, both girls blushed extremely heavily as they took the towels and wrapped themselves in it. Jean Alter slapped Issei in the face hard and he only said one thing. Issei. Yep. Figured that would happen. What shocked Issei more was that Jean took his hand with her own, still having a blush as she looked in his eyes, amethyst meeting hazel. Jean. Can you take us to your home, please? Issei was a bit stunned as he looked at Jean Alter, who looked away but still responded. Humph. I guess I can go with you. Looks like we got us another tsundere. Issei only smiled and wrapped an arm around both Jean and Jean Alter, causing the two of them to have deep blushes on their faces, but also each had thoughts. I like this. His arms are so comforting. I feel like I can stay here forever. He's so kind and caring. This idiot better get his hands off of me. But why? Why is it so warm and safe? I don't get it, but I won't complain. Issei kept smiling softly as Dreg spoke to him mentally. Dreg. I wonder how they would react to me. Issei. I'd bet they'd probably be terrified. Issei then thought for a moment and used a bit of magic to make some clothes so Jean and Jean Alter could change and not be in their birthday suits. Both girls took the clothes immediately and went to the nearby bathroom to change. After changing, both girls came out and Issei couldn't help but blush at how beautiful the two girls looked. After shaking off his blush, Issei opened a portal to his home and offered his hands to both Jean and Jean Alter. They took his hands, albeit a bit hesitant, but after they did, a sense of comfort and safety washed over them. They stayed very close to Issei, not only nervous but also unsure of what's coming. Issei only squeezed their hands, making both Jean and Jean Alter feel a bit relieved as the trio walked through the portal to Issei's home. Scene change, YAHWEH residence. In the house of the YAHWEHs, a portal opens, which didn't surprise the two parents. Issei, Jean and Jean Alter walked through, where Issei saw his parents and was a bit surprised. Issei. Mom. Dad. When did you two get back? Mickey. We just got back a few hours ago. Boru. Oh, and Angel is upstairs with the others. The parents then looked to see both Jeans and decided to ask. Mickey. Who are these two, dear? Issei. This will be a doozy to explain. Issei then sat down with both Jeans on either side and he began to explain what went on. Both parents were surprised at the fact that both girls were Jean Dark, but different versions. Mickey and Goru talked for a moment, then smiled at the trio, accepting the two girls into their home. Both Jean and Jean Alter were grateful, but Jean Alter acted a bit cold. Issei knew she didn't mean it and knows what he's dealing with. After going up to a spare room, Issei placed Jean in the first spare room, but before he could go further, she gave Issei a kiss on his lips, smiling and blushing. Jean, thank you Issei. Issei smiled as he spoke. Issei, you're welcome Jean. Once that little interaction ended, Issei took Jean Alter to a different spare room, and before he could do anything, Jean Alter decided to pull Issei and kiss him as well, but not letting him go. Jean Alter. I'm sorry for slapping you. But don't you dare speak of this to anyone. Issei was a bit shocked, but smiled and gently stroked Jean Alter's hair softly. Issei. I'll keep it quiet until you're ready. Jean Alter smiled at Issei as he left to his room to leave both Jeans to recover from being brought back to life. Both girls had one more thought before they went to their beds. It's not bad. A new life. Chapter 13 Containment Breach 2. Redacted site. In the deepest part of one of the Foundation sites, a steel cube can be seen, monitoring an entity of unparalleled nightmares. This entity does not like its face being seen, as it also prefers to be alone, despite its crying and sobbing. Scientists were tracking its pacing movements, which seemed normal for the time being. Unknown to them, somebody will see its face, causing a rage unlike any other. Scene change, or clubroom. In the clubroom, Riaz and her peerage were all sitting a bit gloomy as they looked at pictures where they were happier when Issei was around. A little bit later, Surziches and Grafia appeared to speak to Riaz and her crew. Surziches. I see you understand what you lost now. Riaz looked at a picture, unaware that there were 4 pixels that should have never been seen. Riaz. Yes, brother. Grafia. Let us hope this sticks with you all. As she said that, she noticed 4 little pixels on the picture that she didn't notice at first and thought to ask. Grafia. Why do these 4 little pixels look different? Everyone wanted to see what she was talking about as they went to take a look. However, a portal opened up in the middle of the room as Issei stepped out and appeared with one of his girlfriends, Artoria. He saw Surziches and Grafia and smiled at the two, then dropping it as he saw Rias and everyone else, save for Rasuius. "Hello, everyone. Surziches. Issei. What brings you here?" "Issei. Just showing my girl around town. I'm surprised to see you two here, though." Both Surziches and Grafia smiled at Issei, but Grafia knew something was different and needed to ask Issei. Before she had the chance, Issei's phone went off and he answered it. "Hello?" On the other side, a scientist was freaking out as he was screaming. Somebody saw its face. Issei's demeanor changed immediately as he understood what he was talking about. "Slow it down at all costs. Don't let it move forward." He hung up and looked at everyone very seriously as his aura demanded answers. "Were you about to ask me something, Grafia?" Grafia understood that Issei was in no mood to play around as she handed Issei the picture, his fingers covering the pixels. He looked at everyone and knew he needed to know. "You all saw this picture and don't lie to me." Rias and Grafia both looked at Issei as they raised their hands up, albeit nervously. Issei, seeing this, pinched the bridge of his nose hard. "Fucking hell." Issei then took his knife and without looking at the picture, put it where his thumb is covering the pixels and as soon as he moved it, scratched the 4 pixels with his knife, obscuring them. Rias was upset that Issei was destroying the picture, but his look and tone said enough. "You two head back to the underworld. Now." Grafia opened a portal under herself and Rias, and despite her protests, both went back to the underworld, causing Surziches to worry. "Surziches? Why did you have them go back?" They saw something that should never be seen. They saw its face. Surziches, knowing about the SCP Foundation, paled and understood why Issei was so serious. "Surziches. I understand. All of you are to head to the underworld as well." "Issei. Artoria. Please wait for me at home." Issei kissed Artoria briefly, making the other girls jealous, but they knew they lost Issei when they had berated him, save for Rasuius. She looked at Issei a bit longingly, but Artoria saw how the Valkyrie had fallen for Issei. She'd have to talk to the other 3 about Rasuius, but it'll have to wait. Artoria left Issei's house and waited for him to take care of it. Scene change, redacted site. In the site, the entity in the steel cube is free and is extremely enraged. Its eyes were pure white, its jaw 4 times the size of a normal human, limbs are longer than normal, and it was emitting a deafening cry, scream. This is the shy guy, SCP-096. And it is in an extremely hostile state because someone saw its face. As the soldiers fired on the entity, it screeched and tore through everything and everyone like butter. After doing so, it busted through the walls and border, running at an inhuman pace to catch the one that saw its face. Its rage will never be quelled until the one that saw its face has been killed. Scene change, Haidu home. As soon as Artoria came back, everyone looked at her and saw the look in her eyes. She then got a text from Issei, telling her to have everyone blindfold themselves. His parents looked at Artoria and wondered why. "Boru. Why does he want us to blindfold ourselves?" Artoria. "I don't know, but..." She got another message, saying that the creature that doesn't like its face being seen has broken out and is going to kill all that see its face. Everyone paled and were terrified, but they all complied and did so, while Mickey locked the doors and closed the blinds, ensuring the outside world would not be seen until it's all over. After that, everyone got a blindfold and covered their eyes, hiding in different rooms as a calm panic had taken over them. Angel was in her room, and she was more scared than anybody else, considering that her brother is out there dealing with the creature. "Big brother. Please be safe. I can't lose you. I need you." Scene change, Kuo outskirts. As the entity grew closer, thanks to its wailing, Issei knew what needed to be done. He had Drake create a visor that allowed him to see, but also obscure the creature's face. Once his visor was on, Issei saw it coming at an alarming rate and donned the dual gauntlets. Once the creature was close enough, Issei grabbed a hold of it from behind as he held its arms, but the shy guy was dragging him, despite looking malnourished. Issei ended up struggling against the creature, trying to plant his feet but couldn't. The portal opened up and several MTF soldiers fired upon the creature, hitting it with everything they had. One of them ran to Issei and showed him a needle, which seemed to be a sedative that'll put 096 to sleep. Issei only nodded and with the gauntlets, started punching the shy guy in the neck hard. After cracking its neck some, he inserted the sedative into its broken area as the shy guy started to go to sleep, calming down and passing out face down. Issei breathed a sigh of relief and placed a large bag over its head, making sure nobody else saw its face. The portable jail cell appeared, and with the help of his soldiers, Issei told them to take it back to its cell, the MTF soldiers walking through the portal and making sure it won't break out again. Issei sighed heavily after that dramatic event. "I need a damn vacation." He soon opened a portal to his home, ready to tell everyone it's over. Scene change, Haidu house. After Issei appeared in his living room, he knew it was too quiet, so he called his mom to tell her the news. "Nikki? Hello? It's over. Everyone can take their blindfolds off." Nikki hung up, and not a moment too soon, as she went down and hugged Issei hard, almost crushing his entire skeleton. Issei struggled to breathe from that, but was unable to break out of his mom's grip. Shortly after, his dad and sister came down, his dad doing a quick hug, but the same couldn't be said for Angel. She gave Issei one of the tightest hugs she could muster, and it almost broke Issei's back entirely. The parents only laughed as Goru decided to give Issei some space. "Goru. Okay, Angel, your brother needs to breathe." Angel saw her brother going blue, and she let go, dropping Issei to the ground as he was breathing heavily. "Geez. Never. Doubt her. Strength." Everyone laughed at his comment, as Issei got up only to be brought down to the floor by a quick blur. He was about to see who it was, but noticed it was Jean Alter, as she was terrified that Issei would have been killed. "You idiot." Issei held Jean Alter as he gently stroked her hair, trying to calm her down. "Women, I'm still here. Don't worry." Jean Alter just nodded silently, not letting Issei go. Knowing how scared she was, Issei picked her up in a bridal carry, walking Jean Alter to her room, letting the Dark Saint know that he's okay. After carrying Jean Alter to her room, Issei set her gently on the bed, tucking her in like she's his little girl. She tried to protest it, but the comfort from Issei was enough to calm Jean Alter down. Once she was in bed, Issei gave Jean Alter a soft kiss on her head, smiling at her very softly as she looked at him with a smile of her own. Jean Alter smiled and just nodded, falling asleep after being comforted and taken care of by Issei. He then left her room and closed the door, before walking to his room, knowing he'll be hounded by the others. Issei took a deep breath and walked in, and as expected, he was not only hounded, but also put through the ringer by his girls, drying him of his energy. Chapter 14 Holy Shocker. After dealing with the breach from the shy guy, Issei was in his bed as he was very slow to wake up. Once he got awake and out of the grip of his girls, he did his usual routine and dressed in his casual uniform. He saw the date that it was Easter Sunday, and Issei had a thought cross his mind. Maybe I should have the Seraphs meet YAHWEH, and maybe both Jeans as well. He smiled a bit and went downstairs, where his sister ran up and hugged him tightly, causing Issei to chuckle a little. "Angel. Don't scare me like that, brother." "Issei, I'm sorry, Angel. I promise I'll be careful from now on." Angel just smiled as she let go of Issei, and he looked at his parents. "Issei. You remember when we had to pray to God back then?" Everyone nodded, unsure of where Issei was going with his question. Issei. "Well. I met him." Everyone had to take a second to register what Issei had said, because they were unsure if it was real or not. "Mickey. Issei. Isn't he dead?" "Goru. Are you sure you met him?" "Issei. I'm certain, and if you need proof, I'll provide a picture to you all." The YAHWEH family all looked to Issei and agreed to have a photo provided, then he went up to wake both Jeans from their sleep. Issei knocked on the door gently, opening it slowly before he saw Jean and Jean Alter sleeping still, possibly tired from whatever happened the other day. This made Issei smile softly as he lightly shook both girls awake, though one of them wasn't too thrilled. "Issei. Girls. It's time to wake up." Jean groaned a little and looked up to Issei, smiling gently at him as she rubbed her eyes. "Jean. Is it morning already?" Issei nodded softly, as Jean Alter was not thrilled waking up. "Jean Alter. Can't you let me sleep longer?" "Issei. I'd like to, but I have something that'll make you girls shocked. God is real, and he's alive." This message instantly shocked both girls, as they looked at Issei like he's crazy, but the smile said more than enough. "Issei. I'll let you two get changed, because we're going to heaven first." Both girls instantly shot out of bed and started to change, dressing in appropriate clothes so they don't expose too much, but still enough to be comfortable. Issei waited downstairs for them, and once he saw both Jeans walking down, his blush grew as it was slightly noticeable. As Issei was stunned at how beautiful both Jeans looked, he shook his head a bit and stood up, smiling at the pair. "Issei. Are you two ready to go?" Both Jeans nodded as Issei opened a portal to heaven, mainly the sixth heaven, so he can speak to the angels. Scene change, sixth heaven. In the sixth heaven, there are 4 angels speaking to one another, all of them being seraphs. The main angel had long blonde hair, green eyes, and wore a gold-white robe, bearing a gentle smile. This first angel was Michael. The only female angel looked similar to Michiel, as she had a body to die for and wore a dress that was gold in color. This was none other than the most beautiful woman in heaven herself, Gabriel. The other 2 angels were both men and looked somewhat similar to Michael and Gabriel, as these two were Raphael and Uriel, brothers to Michael and Gabriel. As the angels were talking, they observed a portal being opened, and from it came Issei YAHWEH himself, along with 2 Jean Darks, making the angels widen their eyes. Issei saw the look in both Jean's eyes as they were awestruck by the feeling of being in heaven. He turned and saw the seraphs as he spoke in a gentle tone that made Gabriel's heartbeat a bit faster. "Sup, everyone. Michael. Ah, Issei. Welcome. I see you brought two. Wait a minute." Mitchell was observing both Jeans, which made both of them a bit uncomfortable. Seeing this, Issei put a hand up to stop Michael. "Issei. I'll answer that later. Right now, it's something else concerning you four specifically." This statement caused the angels to look at Issei a bit seriously, wondering what he was going to say. They saw the smile Issei had, and he spoke the one thing that made them tense up. "Issei. Your father, YAHWEH. He's alive and well." That statement made Raphael slam his hands down on the table and stand up, a look of anger on his face. "Lies. Father is dead. We have witnessed it." Issei, dropping his smile, spoke in a tone that demanded cooperation. "Sit down. He's alive, and I can show you." This made Raphael scared a bit, but Michael, being the calmest of the four, spoke up. "Michael. Can you please do that? I'm not saying you're wrong, but we do not know if you are speaking the truth." Issei. "I can certainly do that, which is why I also brought both of them motioning to Jean and Jean Alter. To see him as well." Michael nodded as Issei opened a portal to the site where God is residing. Scene change, redacted site. Issei came through the portal, along with the four seraphs and both Jeans. A few MTF soldiers came and saluted him. "Sir." Issei. "At ease, everyone. I'm leading them to C-343. "Who exactly are they, sir?" Issei. "These four archangels are his children." The MTF was stunned, but nodded and said nothing else, motioning to follow them to the containment cell he's in. After a few minutes, they arrived and stopped in front of the door. Issei looked back to see Gabriel shaking like a leaf, and he knew she was nervous. He placed both of his hands on her shoulders, speaking softly to her. "Gabriel. It'll be okay. I promise." Gabriel looked into Issei's eyes and blushed, seeing how close he was, but also how gentle and caring he is as well. She silently nodded as Issei smiled softly at her, causing her to blush more. Mitchell saw this and knew that his sister had fallen in love with the red dragon as Issei scanned his card and opened the door. He looked back to everyone and motioned them to follow, all of them walking inside, nervous. Issei, in a loud voice, called out to him. "Old man. I'm back. And I'm not alone." Everyone looked at Issei like he was crazy, but soon a figure emerged, and it made everyone shocked to see the one figure that they either were born from or prayed to. YAHWEH. "So you have returned, young Issei. Who did you?" As soon as YAHWEH saw the seraphs, he was stunned silent, eyes widened as he approached them slowly. He extended his hand out slowly, and as soon as he cupped Gabriel's cheek, he spoke quietly, but with shock. "Hello. Daughter." Gabriel, unable to contain herself, threw her whole weight at God, crying her heart out as she had seen her father for the first time in many centuries. Since the Great War, YAHWEH was wounded but found by the SCP Foundation and healed up. He was mad that he was contained and took his anger out on the Foundation. Even after that, he wasn't satisfied until he knew that his children were safe. After his first meeting with Issei, he realized that his children were alive and well. Since finding that out, his rage was quelled and he became the figure many had prayed to. God also looked to his sons and spoke just as quietly. "My sons. You're here." Just like Gabriel, their emotions took over and the others hugged their father, a family reunion that was so many years in the making. This scene made both Jeans tear up as Issei placed a gentle hand on their shoulders, making the two smile a little bit. God then looked to Issei and the two Jeans and spoke. "YAHWEH. Issei Haidu, thank you for reuniting me with my children. I can never thank you enough for this." "You're welcome, and these two." "Ah yes, Jean Dark. I remember the days she had prayed day and night to me." "Young lady. Wait." YAHWEH had to look for a moment and even he was shocked, which was an extreme rarity. "There's two Jeans." Issei. "Trust me, I'm still dumbfounded how that even happened. But I couldn't ask for anything better than to see them alive." Both Jeans blushed heavily at Issei's statement, but their hearts swelled with happiness as YAHWEH also smiled. "Very well. Unfortunately, I can't come back to heaven with you all, but I can still monitor everything here. Issei, please don't hesitate to come back anytime you wish." "I will, old man." He smiled and in a bit of a playful tone, spoke to Issei. "And also, watch my daughter for me. But please don't make me a grandfather just yet." That made Gabriel turn red very fast as both Jeans pouted a little bit. YAHWEH laughed and he then waved everyone goodbye. Eventually the seraphs, Issei, and both Jeans went back to their respective homes, but before Issei and the two Jeans left, Gabriel suddenly takes Issei's lips with her own, giving her first kiss to Issei, making him blush and both Jeans to pout. After the kiss, Issei was red in the face, while Gabriel only giggled and whispered into his ear. "I'll be waiting. Ice. Issei shuddered, and Michiel only looked at Issei with a smile that only said good luck. I seriously hope Kalawiner doesn't drain me because of this. I need to talk to her about it. After that, Issei opened the portal to his home, while the Ceres left through their own portal, separating the large group into two, as Issei, Jean and Jean Alter went home as the angels returned to heaven. Scene change, YAHWEH residence. Upon heading home, Issei saw that Kalawiner was by the stairwell with a smile on her face. Issei saw that it wasn't one of sadistic tendencies, so he relaxed a bit but was still alert. Kalawiner? I see you're back, dear. Where were you off to this time? Issei. Just talked with God. Kalawiner visibly froze when she heard that and ran up to Issei, clutching his shoulders and shaking him hard. Why didn't you take me as well? Issei was getting very dizzy from the aggressive shaking, as Jean and Jean Alter had to pull Kalawiner off of him. He was extremely dizzy afterwards, falling to the ground and landing hard. Seeing this, Jean helped Issei up, albeit slowly, but he looked at Kalawiner and spoke. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted to go. Kalawiner just sighed, but still had a smile on her face. It's fine. As long as you're still here, that's all that matters to me. Issei smiled and gave Kalawiner a gentle kiss, easing her worries more. The four of them then went upstairs and to the bedroom, where they saw everyone else, but Issei noticed two people missing. Issei. Where are Mordred and Artoria? Nobody spoke up, but Leisha handed Issei an insignia, and once he saw it, his demeanor changed entirely. Sons of bitches. Issei's yell was enough to make everyone flinch and get very worried, as he never gets this angry. He then grabbed his trusted weapons and opened a portal, hell-bent on saving the Pendragon sisters from the insurgency. That's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that, take care.